India is not one country from a food perspective as such. So there's nothing called authentic. So sambar made in Chennai and sambar made in Bombay are actually two different products. So as a manufacturer of food, of Indian food especially, it is very hard to get an authentic Indian product and put it out there.
Every VC in the country is like food aggregated is a larger opportunity than personal care or apparel or anything else. And yet no large outcomes in food, at least in the startup space yet, because the fragmentation is insane.
You've lost the customer before you got them, and you have to find ways to keep them every time. Like especially in a service business, the probability that you lose the customer is high the moment they walk into your store, because so many things can go wrong.
And therefore we launched one product called Burger Pizza. Because customers used to come into pizza store where we were the first QSR, yaar burger chahiye.
I look at any of the startup brands who are say 200 crores to 500, 600 crores today. All brands that have taken the 10 years, anything less than 8 to 10 years is not sufficient to build a consumer brand. Yeah.
Everyone, welcome to one of my today has been an experimental day for the Barbershop, where we have gone from one-on-one discussions to investments. And today, I think, inspired by Nikhil on WTF, where he brings in a lot of diverse perspectives on specific topics together. I think we have also kind of figured out why don't we do that. The podcast before this was on building a company from scratch, and today we are talking about building food companies in India, how India eats and what it takes to build a food company in India. Before we start, I'm just going to quickly go around the table and introduce you guys to each other, because I'm not sure of the 6 people, 62 mein kaun hai. I'm kind of common amongst all, but I'll quickly go around the room and introduce you guys, and then some basic ground rules, and then very, very different from my McKinsey background. This will be a totally unstructured discussion. But let me start from this side. Shashank is the founder of The Whole Truth. You see his products in front, and in my view, one of the best marketers, marketing minds, not only during Whole Truth, but also in your stints before. I've heard so much about you from folks at Rebel Foods and HUL both. So, Whole Truth is just such a fantastic product, brand, and just the way you represent it to your consumers is outstanding. So Shashank brings, health, wellness, product companies insights to the table. Samir is the CEO of Jubilant Foodworks, Domino's Pizza, the largest brand, I think needs no introduction, but every time we talk, and I remember we met incidentally in a Starbucks, where you told me about how the operating challenge of running more than 1,300 outlets and what it...
2,000 now.
2,000 now, wow. And, the heat experienced by a person who's actually baking a pizza in Gurgaon today, for example. So you bring a very different operational excellence plus large scale viewpoint to the business. But I think all of us can safely say that we have tried your products many, many times before, and kind of almost think of it as a celebratory occasion. But welcome, Samir, and thank you for taking the time. Raghav is the founder of Chaayos. I'm sure, again, all of us have had his products multiple times. I met him incidentally at a Chaayos in T2 the last time, I think a month back maybe? A month back, where I very shamelessly got him to treat me for a free breakfast. But 70% market share in QSR chai, right? But in a country where Brook Bond is one of the largest brands, and people drink tea multiple times a day in the crores of cups. So you bring in, kind of retail tea in a market where coffee is also flourishing tremendously. So thank you so much, Raghav, for coming in. Ravi is the founder of TastyBite, and every time I meet Ravi, I think I get to learn so much about food and beverages. I think he built the company from scratch as an entrepreneur, operator, sold it, and now I think you sit on multiple boards, of which I think Paperboat is one. You're an investor in many food companies, and I think it combines entrepreneurship, operating excellence, and investing, board membership kind of insights all packed into one. So thank you, Ravi, for coming. Arjun is my co-host for the day. This is Arjun's 8th Barbershop podcast. Arjun is CEO of Reckitt China. Before this was head of the entire Reckitt e-commerce operation globally. sits on the board of Bombay Shaving Company as well, and that's the panel for today. So I wanted to actually start with, I think, your ad yesterday, which which was about real, health becoming far more important, transparency becoming far more important, and there is a whole revolution around people knowing what they want to eat. But also, we have brands in India like Parle-G, which have become multiple thousands of crores, where when you talk to someone there, they feel like earlier giving a growing child those calories was difficult, and through a 5 rupee pack of Parle-G, they were able to make it happen. So democratization of food and calories. And today calories are easy because calories are cheap, but that also makes them what makes India kind of survive. But I wanted to talk about how you think health is now playing a role. Define the market of eating in India, and how does it affect your respective businesses, etc. But would love to start from that standpoint, leaving it open on the table.
I can go.
Yes, please.
Broad question. I'll start somewhere and then we can take it
Yes.
wherever it goes, right? So you took the Parle-G example. That's interesting because see, I'm talking packaged food right now. All the packaged food brands that you see today are the large ones have been built over 40, 50 years in this country, like very old brands. And the main difference between the India of 1960s and the India of 2020s is we've gone, the affluent in the country at least, we've gone from being a undernourished nation to being a overnourished nation in the metros, in the tier 1 cities, right? Like that's the fundamental difference. So when we were an undernourished nation, the job of providing the cheapest calorie at the farthest point was the most noble job, and what made a great business also, the only way to make a great business. And hence this service of 2 रुपए के Parle-G पैकेट में आपको कहीं रूरल इंडिया में
मिल रहे हैं
150 कैलोरीज मिल जाएंगी चाय के साथ खाने पीने के लिए एज अ डेली वेज लेबरर इज अमेजिंग, राइट? लाइक दैट डजंट एग्जिस्ट एनीवेयर इन द वर्ल्ड. Problem is there is maybe the top 1, 2, 3% of the country which is not living that life, right? We are living this life, right? For 2.5 hours we'll be sitting, right? हम एसी में बैठेंगे, हम कंप्यूटर के सामने काम करेंगे एक्सेट्रा. तो एंड कैलोरीज आर एवरीवेयर, राइट? लाइक sugar is everywhere, it's so easy to access, it's all around us. That our problem is overnourishment. Obesity is our problem. And I think that's the fundamental dichotomy. There is, both markets still exist. You might say that 98% of the country still needs, maybe not 98, but 90% of the country still needs that cheap calorie being delivered very far off on a daily basis, etc. But maybe not for us. And that's where the dichotomy comes in, that who's solving for us? Who's solving for my new need of giving me the most nutritious, nutrient-dense food, not the most calorie-dense food, and I'm willing to pay for it, right? It doesn't have to be cheap. I need to get value in terms of nutrition, not just in terms of energy. I think that's the fundamental construct with which I look at packaged food, at least.
Understood. Ravi, what's your view on this?
I agree with the view, but I'd just add another dimension. Having seen this business now for close to 4 decades.
Yeah. How was it, and like how have you seen it evolve? I would love to hear that.
Yeah. So look, when we started TastyBite, we started off in the US. And
for our viewers, just tell what TastyBite is.
So TastyBite started off as an Indian food offering in the United States. Soon we saw the opportunity of extending the range to a full Asian table, and then we of course decided that the brand TastyBite allows us to do much more. So Mediterranean, Caribbean, everything got added in the ready to eat form. Fortunately, we were not a Maharaja or Taj Mahal or Kohinoor as a brand name, or Kitchens of India, which was for us enemy number 1. So we said we're not Indian as such. So it allows us to do a lot. Over time, over 2 decades, TastyBite went on to become India's largest food brand in the United States. So recognized by Nielsen as as the biggest ethnic food brand in that geography. So I've seen now at least 25 years of just TastyBite alone, and then Pepsi, Britannia before that. The one big thing is that Indians love to cook at home. Okay, they love to cook at home, and there is this whole conversation about mere ghar ka khana, meri maa ka khana, nani ka khana. I mean, this is a very common conversation you'll find across homes, and therefore, unlike in the West, I think as a packaged product, it's almost impossible for you to sell a product that people can make at home. So while it's healthy and good, and some are not so healthy, but they provide indulgence, which also is an important part of being alive. I think you can only sell things like chips, chocolates, cookies, Coke, ice cream, everything that you can't easily make at home. So it also probably is the reason why you can sell bread, but it's very difficult to sell chapatis. Because they can make chapatis at home, and much as they will, there'll be lots of research which will say that people are time poor, that they want the convenience, but when it actually comes to the product that needs the highest degree of convenience, they will not buy it. Because they really in their minds, they want to eat, home food. The second is that India is not one country from a food perspective as such. So there's nothing called authentic. So sambar made in Chennai and sambar made in Bombay are actually two different products. So as a manufacturer of food, of Indian food especially, it is very hard to get an authentic Indian product and put it out there. So I would say that one dimension added to what you're saying. I think over years we've seen that health and nutrition has come in center of mind. What might have been there in the West earlier on. And I know that we're very conscious about how much sodium goes in and how much fat goes in, how much fiber goes in. But those trends are now happening in India too.
I completely agree.
But Shashank, just to add to your point, I think completely agree that it is that 10% of customer today who you're solving for. I think even within that 10%, there is if I was to break that up, maybe there is a 5% cohort which is very aware about everything relating to health, be it macros, be it glucose spikes and all that. And then there is the other 95% who aspires to get to the top 5%. So, and what's interesting is that 95%, at least we see that in our customer conversations, they say that, they want a balance. And guilt-free is the terminology that is used, right? So I want to have that pizza, but if it would come with a multigrain crust, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
And I want those cheat meals, but maybe I'm having, out of my 10 meals, I want to have 2 good meals so that I can maintain that balance. And
so we used to have a term. We used to call it guilt-free masti. So you want to have fun, and yet you want to have be guilt-free.
Yeah.
I remember this is like 12-13 years se bhi zyada ago. Like some birthday, we were at Domino's ka hi outlet, and मैंने चीज बस पिज्जा ऑर्डर किया. उस टाइम पे चीज बस लॉन्च ही हुआ था.
क्या प्रोडक्ट था.
हाँ, मतलब इतना सही लगता था मेरे को.
नया नाउ द बॉडी कांट.
अब मुश्किल. और मैं चीज बस के साथ डाइट कोक मंगवाई. मेरे दोस्तों ने इतनी ली ना मेरी कि भाई तू चीज बस के साथ डाइट कोक पिएगा साले तू. I agree यार. So the way I think about it is like let's call them the affluent. And like if I was to quantify it, I would say anyone who starts earning above 10-12 lakhs per annum, living in the top 7-8 cities of this country, now has disposable income to spend on stuff which they value. I am yet to come across one person in this group who is not concerned about their health.
Absolutely.
Right? And now when they have and I would say concern about health is a much larger cohort, but ability to act on it comes from money in pocket. And that happens by my reading around 10-12 lakhs per annum पे वो होना शुरू हो जाता है कि अब मेरे पास सब कुछ रेंट और ये वो सब कुछ खत्म करके भी मेरे पास कुछ पैसा बचता है टू डू. मेरे को ट्रैवल करना है साल में एक बार या कुछ करना. I have some money left to spend on it. We are as a brand, we talk to that cohort, but more importantly, like on your point, now all of them are concerned about health, but they lie on a spectrum of knowledge, right? And the starting point of health thinking is calories. Everyone starts with calorie, then it goes to protein, then it goes to, I think, clean eating, and from there on, there's a whole spectrum which ends in CGMs and sleep tracking and
Supplement,
biohacking and supplements and all of that stuff, right? So there are definitely micro influencers in this spectrum, not the Instagram influencers, right? Like Arindam was here, right? Look at him. I'm sure he is a micro influencer on health in his group. That there are 10 people around, and all of us have that, right? Like our heuristic for living life is, I have a travel influencer friend in my circle कि कहीं पे जाना तू बता दे भाई क्या itinerary होएगी. I have a financial advisor friend in my circle who's my financial influencer. वैसे we have a health influencer in our circles कि ये अपना fit आदमी है, ये 10 साल से जिम जा रहा है, मेरे को वे प्रोटीन लेना तो इससे पूछ लेता हूँ कि कौन सा. That's our hack, right? कि मैं पूरी रिसर्च करूँगा समझूंगा. That's our hack. That might be 0.1% of this 10, उससे भी छोटा by definition. But I think that's where the trend starts, and that's what big brands and big companies miss, that because of their mass advertising and mass media and all that stuff, they don't, and the only reach to influencers they have is on like Instagram, right? The paid influencers. But the real influencer is Arindam, right? And he's not up for sale. And by the way, he's not doing it for money. What is he doing it for? It's signaling for him.
Goodwill.
Right? Goodwill and social status. All of us want status in something. It's not a bad thing. Like I've spent 20 years doing something well. It gets me status in my circles. Yeah. But that means that I hold any brand, anything that I talk about to a very high bar, because then it attaches my name to it. If I recommend it, so it better cross a very, very high bar. Right? And that's where I think, the core of at least building a healthy brand lies. Can you win that guy? If you can, then they will do the job of,
For example, Samir at Muscle Blaze, Khetarpal, Samir Maheshwari, who's the founder of Health Cart, which owns Muscle Blaze, is very clear that this product has to be recommended by the fittest people. We live in the same community. वहाँ पे जो fittest trainers हैं, वो अगर Muscle Blaze recommend करेगा तो product I've sold.
Prescriptive है, almost prescriptive.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's all, you're right. It's almost prescriptive, and people follow. Like especially now that you're right. People go from calorie deficit to proteins per day to now kind of diversity of nutrition and so on. But if you were to take, how deep is this kind of awareness at a national level? Like you think India has reached a place where beyond metros people are not thinking about it much, because in general we have like you said, very heterogeneous
awareness
food.
And influencers in this space are becoming fairly awareness बहुत high है. Problem is उस awareness पे act करने के लिए disposable income नहीं है मेरे पास.
आपको income की बात लगती है, intent की बात लगती है?
यार honestly I think intent सबका है. You can question motivation to stick to it and the right knowledge of करूँ क्या. Both are down, but intent है. Like again, like just think of your own circles. Do you know anyone who says नहीं मेरे को health का कुछ नहीं है, मतलब मैं सही हूँ, मेरे को कुछ नहीं है.
But Shashank, मैं आपको बताऊँ, the thing is, I think the spectrum is rather wide. Okay, the thing is, at one end of the spectrum is what you're talking. I think the most aware consumers, will think like that. But I think just beneath the surface is this whole desire for indulgence, as in, I also want to indulge sometime. Like example you yourself gave, saying that I had cheese burst pizza and then I also had Diet Coke, because my brain is telling me have Diet Coke. So even without you thinking, you did it. I think that we are seeing India emerge into wanting to do things that they just aspire for. Like taking a kid and your child to go to McDonald's to do a birthday party, or order in pizza in the office for people because it's a celebratory thing. I don't think at that time they're thinking health.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, they're not thinking health. Even though, say, if you got the same gratification with a healthy product, that might become their choice. But the first thing is, I want to be gratified. I want that aspiration to be, to be met. And I think whether you buy it off the shelf or you go into a store, go to Chaayos, I think that's very important. That we recognize कि लोगों को चाहिए क्या. At the end of it, we all love chai. So therefore, I go have chai. And you try and give them, you want to give them Chinese tea.
Not happening.
One day it might, but not today. Yeah, so not today. So it can be one offering among many.
I actually have 2 points to say. I partially agree. So first of all, I think this myth of देख कोई healthy consumer होता है और कोई unhealthy consumer होता है is a myth, right? Like
Absolutely.
I'm the same guy who wakes up fully motivated कि आज जिम जाना है, उसके बाद वे प्रोटीन पीना है, ये करना है, वो करना है, और रात तक विल पावर खत्म हो रही होती है. Days been tough. I want to indulge. I want to have my chocolate. I want to order in a pizza every 3rd, 4th day कि अब बस हो गया मतलब etc. So it's the same. It's absolutely the same guy. And second thing, to your point, I completely agree. All that I am saying actually is for this 10 lakh plus sort of guy.
Yes, totally agree.
Maslow's की almost छत पे पहुंच गया है. So now, I absolutely, completely agree that biology-wise, we are so attracted to indulgent food, right? It's only when you climb up Maslow's that you start getting your brain to override your biology, right? That you have the time and the privilege to think about these things and the ability to override some of your biology. Biologically, beating sugar is super tough. Like I love it. Like I want to be floating in it at all points of time, right? So I am talking about the people who, जब basic needs of घर, shelter, कपड़ा, सब कुछ has been taken care of. अब मुझे अपनी health की चिंता करनी है, because when I look back in the last 10 years when I was putting fight in the corporate world and doing all of this, पेट आ गया है, सब लोग कह रहे हैं कि longevity का major marker तो body fat होता है, all of that stuff, तब थोड़ी चिंता होनी शुरू होती है. And this is all, which is why I think while it sounds very transactional, but money plays a big role. Like there is a certain pay grade below which this is all like, you know, ये बड़े तुम लोगों की बड़े लोगों की बातें हैं भैया, यहाँ पे मैं पहले अपने 2 वक्त की रोटी कर लूँ, उसके बाद ये सारी बातें सोचूंगा. And मेरे लिए food is entertainment. For that guy, food is the only guaranteed source of happiness. There is no other thing in the world, not Bollywood, not sex, which is a guaranteed source of happiness. कि 10 रुपए खर्चूंगा, 50 रुपए खर्चूंगा, तो खुशी 100%
Correct.
मिलेगी. So I completely agree. They are two different worlds.
I don't run any food company, so I don't have that much of an idea. But as a consumer, I am the guy who consumes all your 4 products or brands or services, right? So I would be very interested to understand, let's say, for example, if I'm a person who tries to keep away from refined sugar, has a lot of whole truth, goes to the gym in the morning, etc. How does a CEO of Domino's think about that person and still target? And obviously, I also love my Domino's pizza whenever I get a chance. So how do you think about the business and the consumer who has these two conflicting views at the same time, and how do you market to them?
Sure. I think it's in some ways very paradoxical, right? We are in combination. Firstly, we are many Indias, right? That's what you're all saying. Secondly, I think individually we are all of it, right? I also do 4 or 5 sessions of fitness in a week, but on a Friday I would love to have a glass of wine with my wife, right? We would want to go out and eat a pizza or have a good hearty meal. But on 5 days we want to be very disciplined. So I see my nephews and even kids who are from middle income, lower income group, they're all the time on Facebook and social media posting themselves. So they want to look good, they want to look healthy. So I think it is looking good, being healthy is pervasive. It's not only golf course road in Gurgaon. It's much beyond. It's catching like a wildfire. It's a good thing. How conscious I was about my health in my engineering college was far lower than what I see even in government engineering IITs or NITs. I see kids are far more conscious than how I was. For me, particularly Domino's or pizza, our purpose of our company is we serve joy, right? It is the joy of, in multiple ways. When I see this actually happened to me in Chennai about 3 p.m. There is a girl with her mother. Mother was very reluctant to come into our store. She must be 9 or 10 years old girl. She had only 50 rupees in her pocket, her mother, and She bought a 49 rupee pizza, made sure she took the 1 rupee back from the person who was selling the pizza on point of sale. And I could see the smile and the eyes of the mother with teary eyes, how when her daughter took a bite of pizza, 49 rupees pizza. So this is how India consumes. Yeah. But I also agree that we are also many Indias and we are also many personalities in one. So for me, the mission of my company is we are serving joy. Food brings smiles, it brings camaraderie, it brings moments of happiness, it brings a lot of moments of selfies and clicks, right? These days, you see a youngster going, first thing they will click, there is food, and post it and then start eating. So it is about bragging, it is about sharing, it is about pizza as a product. It was built for sharing, right? So I'm very cognizant of it. From a consumer research standpoint, the number one reason that customers order pizza is cheese ki craving ho rahi hai, kuch acha khana hai. So that's what we are here for. So I think that's how I see. Equally, as we come with more brands, I think health is a theme which is there in every brand. So it is not a separate vertical or a business for me. Somebody wants to have a slightly low calorie pizza, you have a thin crust, right? And I let you choose your toppings. And we actually tried with ragi pizza also, by the way. It didn't do well. So we also tried with unthinkable pizza with the plant-based protein. Worst selling product.
I think that's what, when people want to indulge at that moment, then you want the, like I was talking to Suhail at Tuyam, and even for Suhail, he was saying, yaar, agar aadmi ko chips khana hai na, then give him chips. Like, don't healthify something.
There are no healthy chips.
Indulgent occasion paper. I'm sure, like, in that moment for this mother and daughter, and that's the thing, like, this is what, 60 cents? At 60 cents, you're making pizza available.
The cheapest pizza in the world.
It's India. Like, no one would think of it.
60 cents for a pizza. And for that girl, I think this will probably be, I think when you reach the age of 18, there are possibly 10 to 12 moments that you remember through your childhood. It's likely to be one of the ones.
But the 60 cents is remarkable. What's more remarkable is that 60 cents is aspiration. Yes. That 60 cents is not...
Correct. Correct.
That's unbelievable, right? Absolutely. Like, that's the...
But on the same spectrum, like, if a Domino's gets a pizza at 49 rupees and creates aspiration, but in the same light, like if you go to a Chaayos, I'm not saying it's the same chai, but you can get chai outside much cheaper. Yeah. Why do they come there and pay that premium then? It would be great to understand that.
Yeah, and I actually wanted to understand, like, how the four of you have seen, because my fundamental belief, and I think Arjun and I come as consumers more than anything else, my fundamental belief is that food choices come from taste and craving, like in that moment. I don't think beyond the point you can routine make it 4 times a week. If I'm doing strength, I will do whey protein or whatever. Beyond that, I think it comes from like just what you feel like eating. And you're right, biology is biology, right? But how do you think about, for example, your consumer and what you stand for? And then would love to get the four of your like view on just taste and how that evolves.
So when we started out, we used to hear from our customers, "Yaar, chai to bahut mehengi hai." Today, when we do say consumer research and ask consumers, how do you rate us on value for money against multiple other cafe options, we're like top rated on that. So I think it has been that journey for us also, going from कि यार घर के बाहर चाय कौन पीता है, to saying that look, it's a really great tasting chai, it's a great service experience, and I'm getting everything that I get in any other cafe, and it's actually half or even less than half the price that I end up paying for a coffee product at a coffee cafe. So I think that's been a very, very interesting journey for us. How does the customer perceive value? And for us, it has always been about, you know, the fundamental insight with which we started was, before we started, we went and asked customers, what does your ideal chai look like? We asked 100 customers that, and there were 100 different answers. so we realized that, look, either we can go the QSR way and say that, have the top 5 chais in the menu, but that wouldn't do justice to the way that the consumer actually thinks and the thing that they value the most. So that's where the whole idea of Meri Wali Chai came out, and it's been a nightmare to scale that. doing 80,000 kinds of chai. And we've heard from like industry people in the first 3-4 years of us scaling up, they're like, "Yeah, tum pagal ho gaye ho kya? Ye to kabhi nahi chalne wala. Make it simple. That's the rule for scaling." So I think that Meri Wali Chai somewhere where we stuck to our guns and we said that, look, if we compromise here, it gives someone an in to be able to own that, because that's the real truth of the customer when it comes to chai. So that's
and is that how you cross that barrier of who will have such an expensive tea outside the house?
I think it's everything. The product is the cafe, it is the personalized chai, it is the freshly made food that goes with it. So it is all of that put together. It's not one of those. I think if any one of those elements wasn't there, customer might say that it's just not giving me the right value.
I think also this again a very personal point of view. I think there are certain very standard things that Indians eat with chai.
Yeah.
Like you will have like biscuits or bun maska or samosa or like pakoda and chai, etc. And so your food menu is very nicely made for the occasion of chai, which actually kind of which for me is not the case with coffee. Coffee ke saath there is like a variety of things that people will eat. Sometimes they just want the coffee, they don't want to eat anything with it. And because you can give a holistic meal experience, I think that certainly makes it a lot more.
Yeah, it is the chai
valuable.
and the snack that goes together actually.
Chai, snacks, relax, right?
And Arjun, I think one dimension about cost is whether it's Chaayos or Starbucks, let's just, looking at those two. I still think the aspiration is the same as buying Domino's for 60 cents. It is about spending time, hanging out with friends or family. So both of them, these places give you that opportunity. So that's the added benefit. Meaning it's not just having chai alone. It's not just having a cup of tea, but you've got a great environment there. You've got the paraphernalia to like ensure people can come and hang out there. They can just spend time. So they pay for everything. They don't just pay for a cup of tea. So you couldn't, I think, be able to sell that tea as a retail product as successfully for the price that you charge in a cafe. So if you look at a cafe versus a cafe anywhere in the world, I think you'll still, on the scale that Shantanu, you said, 60 cents for a pizza, maybe they're $2, to hang out with friends for like 2 hours sometimes.
Yeah.
You won't get that anywhere else in the world. So I think India is yet a very price sensitive, place. And what you use the word, there must be a craving for it. So that is absolutely uncompromisable. So it has to be craveable. It has to be affordable. For the large part, you have to be able to eat it anywhere. And if it's possible, have it anytime. So pizza, for instance, these days is not just, something you go into a store. People order it at home. People order it in offices for lunch. So you can have it. So you can have it anywhere. You can pretty much have it any time except maybe for breakfast. But other than that, you can have it like lunch, dinner, mid-meal, you can have it. So if you can actually build that, I think you have the makings of a really good business. So craveable, affordable, anywhere, anytime. And the final thing here is context is very important. I'm very impressed by how your industry, Sameer, has got like paneer as a important topping on pizzas. Okay, it's a very or a tandoori chicken, on those pizzas. It's very contextual to India itself. What you have in Chaayos, you don't serve tea infusions as such. You sell chai or Meri Wali chai. Look at the context of that. Yeah, so that's super important. Because for me, our learning was like from another market where we took a dal makhani and actually converted that into a product where people wanting Mexican food could have the dal makhani as against refried beans. So you can now imagine, you make a taco, You throw in, like thick dal makhani, put in, your leafy veggies there, put in onion, put sour cream, turn it around, now eat. It's infinitely better than having refried beans.
Really?
Yeah.
I can imagine.
But you should
I can
not,
imagine, and I'm going to try.
And you must share the recipe again.
and you know what? The worst thing was to tell them that you must eat Indians like how Indians eat. It comes from India, but you can eat it the way you want to eat it. So context was super important. And don't tell people, don't say, stop eating Mexican. Please eat Mexican. This is a better product.
This is like the discussion we had on Szechuan peanut butter.
Correct.
Earlier.
Correct.
Really?
And it's the same thing like having, like a paneer or peppy paneer or tandoori chicken, on a pizza. I mean, whoever could have imagined it when pizzas first came to India.
Yeah. I think, just for the viewers, this is like a master class of what Ravi said, which is it needs to be craveable. So you can take this not just from a food business, but to any business.
Correct.
So craveable becomes something which the consumer desires. Affordable means value for money for any business that desires. And anytime and anywhere is basically expansion of consumption occasions and consumption time. And it's like a formula that, golden formula with which you can practically run any business. And I think I'm sure that
Also,
all of you
I'll add
apply-
one that you can't cook at home.
And you can't cook at home. Yeah.
That's the
You can't make it at home. So that's the value add that a brand is giving you.
Which is the chai challenge, right?
Yeah.
The chai versus coffee challenge in this country is chai people make at home. And hence, experience, etc. has to kick in.
Correct, absolutely.
Right?
But I also think what's very interesting is we have a sizable delivery business now, and the backstory behind it was we used to deliver. People used to have meetings in office in the tech parks we were a part of, and we used to have these Milton flasks, and we used to put chai in it, and we used to send it. At the end of the day, someone would go and collect it from that office. Like, this seems like some use case that's coming up. And what we did was we developed this packaging, expecting that this is largely an office use case. Today, 80% of our orders come from homes.
Wow.
So while that made at home is a challenge, we now talk to consumers, and there's this
People ordering chai at home.
What is the insight there? क्या हो रहा है? मतलब
so-
I'll see.
I can give you the consumer
lazy
insight.
answer
I can
to
give you the consumer insight. Yeah. No, as a consumer, the chai that is made at home is either optimized to the taste of multiple people in the house.
or to no one.
Or to no one, or to the person who's making the chai.
Yeah.
But as the consumer of the chai, sometimes, you go to a Chaayos or something and you click with a certain type of tea.
But
or,
Arjun,
or you
उनका-
want something in it, which is that
उनका
मेरी
जो
वाली
डब्बा आता
chai.
है वो 3-4 लोगों के लिए ही होता है, तो वो भी फिर 3-4 लोगों को भी पीना पड़ेगा. How is
Not necessarily. You can
No, so
order.
there's one for 2 people also.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is, like, we were speaking to a customer recently. She orders every day. So she wakes up in the morning. The first thing is she places her order, which is a chai and upma, and it's upma every day. And goes back to sleep. Then when the rider rings the doorbell, wakes up, has the chai and upma, and it's a daily ritual. So I think, like,
she's ordering breakfast.
as a breakfast. So I think it's the food also, but it's also that, wo right chai maid is not able to make it. I'm too lazy to make it. I think quick commerce is making us all very, very unplanned and very lazy.
impatient. I was
That's
going to say.
incredible. She does this every day.
Does every day.
Wow. No, but I agree with her, because the chai and upma is pretty awesome. That's what we had together, no?
Maybe we can order some for me.
We should order some.
I think that's the thing about food craving. You start talking about it, everybody wants to have it.
Yeah.
But so we talk about this in terms of, I remember when McDonald's, remember it opened in Jangli Maharaj Road, the first one
Yes.
in Pune in 1997 or 98.
Correct.
And at that time, I remember going to the McDonald's and seeing a Makalu Tikki burger. And I found it fascinating, because in the US, when I grew up in the US, there was nothing like that. Like, there was barely anything vegetarian.
Burger means beef over there.
Cheeseburgers, hamburgers, etc.
मैकडोनल्ड्स का, सॉरी आई एम डाइग्रेसिंग, बट आई रिमेंबर एक सिंगापुर में मैं 10 साल पहले जब मैकडोनल्ड में गया तो एक वेज बर्गर था, उसका नाम था द वेज बर्गर. कुछ ऐसे भी आते हैं जो सॉरी गो ऑन.
No, but I remember there being a Makalu Tikki burger, and it was like very tasty and very like vada pav inspired in a way. But how have you thought about it in your, like, and just broadly, like, how do you think about taste, and I have this question is for all of you. Like, how do you think about taste in such a heterogeneous country? Across price points, across people, young and old. You know, I think it's such a unique thing. But how do you think about taste and the craveability of what we were talking about?
Yeah, I think I look at this. There is a core of the product that should not change, and then there is something which can be anybody's choice. Thankfully, pizza lends itself. What doesn't change is there is a base which is carb, right? Has a buttery dough. Then there is a pizza sauce, and there is cheese. Right? These three ingredients are always there, and if you combine three, that becomes a margherita pizza, right? That's what that kind of is the base and the most authentic form of pizza. Now, on top of it, our largest selling product is pepi paneer. It has continued to be there.
The highest selling
product is pepi paneer.
Are you serious?
It is continues to be there no matter what we do. It is the tur dal of our industry. That's what I say. So that is there. Then we've tried lots of toppings, flavors. They don't stick, right? I mean, it changes, but I think people want variety. So if it is Durga Puja, we recently launched Kashondi, which is mustard in Bengali, right? Chingdi, the prawn, malai, right? So we launched those. It does extremely well during Durga Puja.
But then kind of
comes down and then back to pepi paneer and right. So then in Andhra there is one of my favorite leafy chutneys, Gangura chutney.
Correct.
Right, it's khatte. So we launched Gangura chicken. I did well for some time, then back to pepi paneer. So I think we have to constantly innovate. It is more about creating the excitement. But ultimately linking it back to cheese, linking it back to indulgence, sharing, those are the moments which we take, and as a product, it lends itself. We do new product tasting every week. By ritual, there is we'll go to the kitchen, chefs will put something together, or we will benchmark with the competition and try and come with a better product. Right? I think that is. A lot of it is consumer insight backward. For example, last year, this time we launched something called a fiery or a fiery pizza.
Yes, I remember.
Right? So because customers were telling us your pizzas are becoming little bland, so we want more spice. So it was all like 2 or 3 kind of chilies on pizza. Then we burnt a billboard. We caught a fire extinguisher. It is a little bit hellfire. So we do that. I think those to an extent stick for some time, but I think ultimately pepi paneer turns out to be a winner.
But what's very interesting, Samir, is that people didn't know pizza before Domino's. So I think you've at least set the base for the heterogeneous taste profile of the country. Now people know that this is the baseline, like this is what pizza is, and that's not the case with a lot of other cuisines. But I think like you ask the majority of the country and they'll say this is what the real authentic pizza is.
By the way, a side note for all of us food business runners, entrepreneurs, the amount of varianting that you have to do in the food business. Like when you make a razor, you don't have to make a pepi paneer razor and a chicken chettinad razor, right? Like, and people think of these as SKUs. But if I don't have 15 variants of protein bar and 50 variants of pizza, nothing will sell.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, it's the width on this business is usually so large.
That's the license to play, right?
It's the license to play, right? And like, personal care doesn't need to do it. You don't have 20 flavors of under eye cream.
Correct.
Right? Apparel is the only one which has the same varianting problem, but then they don't have the shelf life problem. They have the inventory problem. But food is exceptionally tough. This is one of the reasons why food is exceptionally tough.
But it's also the opportunity, meaning because the food palette is so wide, it's also the opportunity. So I remember my days in Britannia, for instance. You had this whole cook, you had biscuits across the range. You had a salty, biscuit. You had an extremely sweet. You had something with chocolate. You had something with jam. You could do lots of things, and you could actually get like a cookie for every occasion. There. So I think even that opportunity of pizzas, I'm sure that lends
which is why it's so fragmented also. That's the reason why food is so fragmented, that every VC in the country is like food aggregated is a larger opportunity than personal care or apparel or anything else, and yet no large outcomes in food, at least in the startup space yet, because the fragmentation is insane. And that's also, I think, the reason why food, unlike personal care, has mostly single category brands, not multi-category brands. Like a Johnson & Johnson or a Nivea will be selling everything from like foot cream to body lotion to face cream to face wash.
Correct.
But in food, Lay's is chips,
Yeah.
and Pepsi is, a beverage.
Cola,
and
cola,
so
Or Haldiram is bhujia. So
Haldiram has actually
Haldiram has
diversified
actually kind of gone very
well.
wide.
Like, and I think that route went through QSR. For them, the diversification route, like to be a master brand, they had to go the like outlet route.
But the outlet is, I think you people notice it more here. I think Haldiram, for the large part, is still something you buy at retail.
FMCG.
It's still, I like the word you used, varianting, as in if somebody's got more, the most amount of varianting, it's them. So they make everything from coated peanuts to, bhujiyas and Gujarati mixes and something for your fasting. So they call it falahari something.
Navrata
And then when they got everything left over, they've even got something called all-in-one mix.
Can't decide.
There's all-in-one mix, so and wo bhi bik jata hai. So because now there's credibility. As in, I think Haldiram has established a lot of credibility. They were the first to have championed, packaged, bhujia-like snacks for the first time. Something that was a cottage industry, was converted into this mega-sized, food business by them. So a lot of credit. But to your point, they're still in that, in that one segment. So I recognize they have restaurants, but they are very few compared to what people know Haldiram as.
Yeah. And they get taste, right? Like they get taste like anyone's business, and like to crack taste again and again and again in multiple products is like,
it is actually quite outstanding.
Exceptionality.
Haldiram is, I recently tried one of their new products called Gupshup Peanuts. It blew my mind because I like that no one can eat just one. Actually, the Gupshup Peanuts, it's not, you just cannot stop. It's actually very, very good.
That's actually like the question you were asking. I was thinking about it. Ki taste versus health, and like I think we all agree that biologically to taste, right? And like there's a evolutionary reason to it, right? Like this incidence of jitna khana chahiye utna available hai is a 200-year-old phenomenon, right? So bodies, usse pehle we were hunter gatherers or agriculture, जो बड़ी मुश्किल से खाना मिलता था, calorie rich food तो बहुत ही मुश्किल से मिलता था. And hence we salivate at calorie rich food because it used to be a treat जो महीने में एक बारी कुछ जानवर मार लिया तो कुछ मिल जाता था, नहीं तो नहीं मिलता था, right? So biology is still there. Life has changed dramatically. Going back to the Maslow's point, when you have self-actualized in life, you start applying brain and you realize that I eat, like the gatekeeper to what I eat is my tongue, but what I'm eating for is my gut. And these two have their incentives completely misaligned, right? इसको taste चाहिए, इसको nutrition चाहिए, but gatekeeper तो कह रहा है भाई taste वाला सामान आने दो, अंदर जाके जो होएगा मेरी चिंता नहीं है, अगले दिन gut रोती है, but हमारी memory short है तो हम फिर से gut भूल जाते हैं, 2 दिन याद रखते हैं, फिर भूल जाते हैं, फिर taste लग जाता है, right? So for us, as someone who's operating in a space where you're right, both our consumers are sitting at that, अब मैं दिमाग लगाता हूँ खाने के बारे में as far as possible. There are many a times जब दिमाग भूल जाता हूँ और शरीर जो बोलता है वही करता हूँ. तब I want to optimize not just for taste but for nutrition also, right? So there is a space to create in that zone where the consumer's mind is turned on to optimize not just for taste but for nutrition. Udhar also, by the way, bad taste will not fly, right? But I think you shift from finding the global maxima of taste कि ये tastiest चीज होनी चाहिए दुनिया में to ये tastiest protein bar होनी चाहिए. Protein bar in general pizza से compete नहीं कर रही भैया, मतलब नहीं हो पाएगा, right? But अब मैं local maxima ढूंढ रहा हूँ कि nutrition के लिए protein bar खानी है, उसमें ये tastiest है तो ये वाली ले लूँगा.
You're establishing purchase intent in the category.
Yes. There is a different brain that switches on in certain whey protein, protein bar, like in functional categories, which give you some functional benefit, there's a different brain that switches on versus indulgent categories.
And how do you choose the flavoring in that? So, for example, I'm interested to know why hasn't any protein bar ended up with a peppy paneer when it's very clear that it works there and it works in the most indulgent thing. So the natural thing is.
I was going to say actually our examples are the opposite.
Yeah.
Shantanu is having the hazelnut bar.
I love,
Right. Have you had this one before?
Yeah.
This is our most expensive bar.
These.
Hamari.
I can't stay away.
Coconut is good for you. You like coconut?
Yeah.
Perfect. So our bars are as it is expensive, $100 a piece. That one is 150. It's our most expensive bar. It's also our second highest selling bar.
by volume.
No. By value second, by volume third. Why? And this repeats again and again in different categories. Actually, our consumer is saying, give me international stuff which I don't get in India. Why isn't anyone making hazelnut wala bar in India? The other one is this orange cocoa, this combination that we took from the chocolate world. The orange chocolate is a very famous combination outside, but no one had gotten it to India, and we put it in a protein bar, and lo and behold, it sells. So it's just so complex that both examples are true. And again, I am the same consumer. I love tandoori chicken pizza, right? Like my wife hates me for it because tandoori chicken pizza chahiye and mujhe hazelnut protein bar chahiye, right? So
You're saying your brain basically is conditioned to think about these two occasions very differently.
Very different.
It's not the same brain.
Very different. Yeah. Another way to think about it is some food categories which are nutrition led are planned purchases. Indulgent are not planned purchases, right? So in planned purchases, you are able to get, because you're not subservient to your biology at that time कि बहुत मन कर रहा है ये खाना है. You're sitting and thinking deeply about कि तुम क्या करना चाहते हो जिंदगी में. तो तब तुम थोड़ा दिमाग लगा के सोचते हो versus the other occasion.
And I think the Indian consumer, your point is overall, I think health is something that is center of mind, even at home. So people are beginning to use this mixed atta for making chapatis at home. Okay, they use ragi and they use bajra, etc. to make chapatis at home.
Millets is now becoming very big.
Millets is becoming very big. And so that has become a part of conversation of the common citizen also. It's not necessarily only this, rich citizen. It's
100%.
happening to everybody.
100%. Yeah.
I think they've not been able to find the solution to
what change do I make?
Yeah, bringing this together. What you said, indulgent and what the brain is telling you to have, it's not coming together. I think it will in time, as technology kicks in and people do more research, I think this will kick in for sure. I mean, let's not forget that Indians yet don't eat bad food every day. Okay, that samosa is still had like once in 15 days or 10 days. Unlike the West, where they will go and, the reason you have so many obese people is they're eating it every day. Okay, they're drinking in like they eat buckets of popcorn. They always go order large Coke when they go to see a movie and like sip it through the movie. They're having like so much sugar. They're having so much, everything bad. So India में अभी भी इतना खराब नहीं है. खाना for the large part लोग घर में खाते हैं. They eat
साफ
good
सुथरा
खाना.
खाते हैं, घर में खाते हैं. I agree. We are blessed in terms of our home food.
And I think they will. So I think, by the way, this product is awesome. I'm having it for the first time.
Thank you so
It's
much.
very good.
Thank you
and
so much.
I
Don't
think
edit this piece out. Edit everything else.
and no, but I'm saying that look, I think people are going to gravitate. So even when you don't think of food as being great, let's say even if it's Haldiram or it's Lay's, everyone is conscious that they must reduce the sodium level. Everyone must, is conscious about the kind of oil they're using to fry. So it's all becoming healthier from where it was. They all want more fiber and they want to call it out. They all will write down free from something, or they will say 97% fat free, cholesterol free. So I think they're playing into the minds of the Indian consumer even as they give them indulgent food. So I think
very true, and like interesting example of how this brain body conundrum is playing out. Like at our home now, my in-laws are staying with me for the past few months, and I got this one multigrain आटा and उसकी रोटी वो wheat वाले आटे जैसी नहीं बनती, मतलब थोड़ी मोटी होती है, थोड़ा टेस्ट में वो मज़ा नहीं आता. बट देव ऑल्सो नाउ प्रोग्राम देयर ब्रेन की यार चपाती में 20% हिट ले लेते हैं, कोई बात नहीं, क्योंकि ये मतलब ये ओवरऑल अच्छी चीज़ है.
इसको भी एडिट नहीं करेंगे.
हाँ, नहीं मत करना ना राइट. बट जिस दिन उनको मतलब इंडल्ज करना है हमें, उस दिन
उस दिन आलू पराठा बनाना.
हाँ, उस दिन all of this is off. Then it doesn't happen. But you're right. Everyone in their small ways is trying to make some change. The problem is that because everyone expects some result out of it, कि कुछ weight loss होगा, कुछ होगा, ये छोटे छोटे चेंज करके दिखता नहीं है, तो मायूसी हो जाती है फिर कि यार मैंने 2-3 sacrifice भी करे. Like I'm sure you've heard, like my parents have been telling me for the last 5 years कि बेटा हमने तो 2 रोटी की 1 रोटी कर दी, दिन में भी 2 बारी खाते हैं, weight loss ही नहीं हो रहा है. You know, so and then I think that's the journey. And then many people stop there, and then some go on to say अच्छा क्यों नहीं हो रहा है. Then they get on to अच्छा calorie, oh total calorie तो कम करी नहीं, अच्छा प्रोटीन पूरा कार्ब ही खाए जा रहे थे, प्रोटीन नहीं खाया. That's the like the journey.
How do you think about taste at Chaayos, Raghav? How have you kind of started with peri wali chai and then thought about like the entire? I remember having poha at Chaayos many years ago when I felt cool, and for me it was always that the poha I had at any Chaayos was almost like identical, and you had kind of figured out a way to make it taste very good with the chai and serve it hot together. Almost created a kind of an experience that was very unique.
Yeah, correct. So I'm actually doing a PhD in poha now. It is the most difficult problem to cater to like all the tastes of the customers. You put western part of the country loves sweet poha.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Indore loves khatta meetha poha. If you put in a little bit of sweetness into the poha in the north of India, they will kill you. So it is just so complex. Like somebody is saying that मेरे घर में तो सब्जी भी डलती है, put vegetables, and then there are people who are like यार सब्जी कैसे डाल सकते हो पोहा के अंदर.
No, there is a whole pro Moongfali, anti Moongfali.
Yeah, correct. So
the anti Moongfali cohort is the मेरे खाने में प्रोटीन कैसे आ सकता है.
But it's very interesting. So now we're doing 2 varieties of poha. One is the Indori and one is the regular poha.
Is it?
And we are also now giving say peanuts on the sides. It's a lot of consumer work that goes into understanding for these kind of products. It is crazy.
I remember this.
I don't mean to interrupt, but one important thing that you said is, it's caught my mind, is Indians are also highly opinionated about food.
Yes.
You know, if you're at a dining table, we call people, it's common for people to say, "Aaj kuch kali mirch zyada hai." You know, in the food. It's as if it's like normal to say these things. Or else we go to a Tambram home, you know, and just having rice and sambar, for instance, they'll say, rice perfect nahi hai. You know? And I'm saying, where in the West would you ever have this conversation? You know, Indians just have an opinion on food in every home.
Because I think we are also spoiled. So in the sense that we have all grown up in some shape or form on homemade food. So we have all grown up on very non-standardized food. Everyone's home, everyone's kitchen will be slightly different from the next.
Correct.
So then then you have had that for a while. This palate is kind of sticky.
Correct.
And then you want it like that.
Yes.
So we are from Indore, like he's from Bhopal. We have very similar poha palate. But in Delhi, wo gajar bean dal dete. Gajar bean and it won't work. Kadi patta, no man.
They'll get killed.
Totally.
But this thing that Sir said, I think, is another big reason of why food, especially I was telling both Sameer and Raghav, ki you guys are running the toughest business in the world. And by numbers, I'm not like the highest mortality rate in the world is in the restaurant business, right? And I think one of the big reasons for that is if you draw XY axis curve of cost of product and expectation of service, usually it's a linear line.
Correct.
Right? कि अब 10 लाख रुपए की गाड़ी लेते हो तो बहुत रिसर्च करके जाते हो, एक सर्विस पूरा एक सेंटर होता है, वो आपको चाय पिलाता है, 10 बारी टेस्ट ड्राइव करवाता है एक्सेट्रा. 100 रुपए की चप्पल लेने जाते हो तो कहते हैं चप्पल लो और भागो, राइट? तो यूजली प्राइस के साथ एक्सपेक्टेशन ऑफ सर्विस राइजेस. फूड इज द ओनली थिंग दैट बक्स दिस ट्रेंड, राइट?
Got X intercept is large.
हाँ, मतलब 5 रुपए के वड़ा पाव में भी आपकी उम्मीद ऐसी है कि आप मुझे मर्सिडीज बेच रहे हो, एंड खराब लगा तो मैं 100 लोगों को बताऊंगा जाके, राइट? भाई तू मेरे को 5 रुपए दे रहा है, जिसमें से मेरा 1 रुपए का प्रॉफिट बनने वाला है बेयरली, बट योर एक्सपेक्टेशन इज एट मर्सिडीज लेवल बिकॉज वी आर इनहेरेंटली सो दिस अबाउट फूड कि ये चावल, वो जो आदमी बोलता है चावल ठीक नहीं है, वो जिंदगी में कभी चावल भी नहीं बनाया होगा. लेकिन मेरा चावल ठीक नहीं है, राइट? वी आर सो, food is so it goes inside you, right? Like we are so passionate about food.
And like you said, like it's the 2 times in a day for most people, which is about they look forward to it.
It's very emotive. It's one of the most emotive things that you do, like in our lives, right? And then twice or thrice in a day. I will get almost 40-50 customer emails in a week. I generally very diligently try and read. Some of them are like Mark II, Russell Wiener, who are head of Domino's. I ordered 10 times. My pizza came last once, right? My daughter was hungry, and like, and go on and on. Then reminder 1, reminder 2, you did not respond, right? So, but this is so emotive.
Yeah.
So the service element of serving, like putting a food outside home, cooked food on your table is very high. It's very high onus on the brands. I think one real fact I want to share, since Domino's came into India in 1996-97, same year KFC and McDonald's came in those years. Since then about 50 brands have come to India. I'm talking about international brands. There are only 3 brands in India which have reached a turnover of 1,000 crores and make 10% EBITDA post paying the rentals. So this 3.
Which are these?
McDonald's, KFC, and Domino's. So coincidentally, they came in the same year, right? There is no correlation over there. So when I wonder like why, and I keep on telling my team who's coming with new ideas, new formats, right? That this is a business. This is a graveyard business actually.
Yeah.
Very easy to think of a product. Everybody wants to open a cafe. All my friends who made money, I want to buy a farmhouse and open a cafe. I think the worst ideas in life, right? To do. So it looks very sexy, looks very glamorous. It's hard work to do. Standardization is very difficult. We pay minimum wages, right? Our biggest, like, I think elections kind of just increase our cost, right? So I think it's a very tough business where you want somebody to make a 50 rupee pizza, serve joy, but yet I will pay you minimum wages, right? You stand in 50 degrees of heat, drive and deliver the pizza in 20 minutes, not break any rules. So it's a very tough business to kind of scale, serve, brings in a lot of humility, and it's a pennies business, right? If 10 pennies or 100 pennies have to come together to make a rupee.
Right side of the decimal.
आपने जब बोला ना समीर कि 25 years में there are more than that, there are just 3 brands. So Raghav and I were just talking before we started off that look, food businesses take years to build. Okay, so if you look at any success across categories, whether it's on retail or restaurants or even your kind of business, which is you're talking about it as appealing only to those people at the top end of Maslow's hierarchy, even those businesses, my sense is broadly takes 2 decades to build a brand. When you can call and say now you're probably in the safe zone where people have got they repeatedly they buy, they recognize and respect the brand. It takes years, so anything can go wrong in those 20 years, and you have to therefore nurture it. Literally, we call this the brick and mortar business. It is like about putting bricks in place and building a fortress around. That's when the brand really works. And one other thing, and maybe Sameer and Raghav can throw more light on this, is my experience has been that the aspiration of people in tier 3 and 4 towns is not any less than what we think of as tier 1 cities, okay, against conventional thinking. So if there was a Domino's, in a, say, Vijayawada,
Mizoram तो 4-5 है, Daltonganj, Giridih, Shasharam, right, Latur, right. So these are the places where we are going. एक बारी हमने this New Year से पहले I got a call at like some 1 a.m. in the night. Generally I don't pick up, I sleep very early. I picked up that call saying I am calling from Vidisha. You opened a store over there and there is a long line to go get inside. I said, I'm sorry, I know we just opened a store, there is a line, but I agree the tier 3, tier 4 opportunity in India is real, right? And therefore we launched one product called Burger Pizza.
Okay.
Because customers used to come into a pizza store where we were the first QSR, यार burger चाहिए, तो burger रखते हो क्या आप? So it again came from a consumer ask and research, we actually have a burger pizza that goes into the oven. It's like 2 pizzas and
it's a great product.
Amazing.
Right?
Really?
Amazing. I want to try burger.
It does very well in tier 3, tier 4.
Only tier 3, tier 4. And for particular part of the country or all?
It's available everywhere, but any tier 3, tier 4 city, because there is no McDonald's or there are no burger chains over there. So we do the job of like they will come back, आप coffee क्यों नहीं रखते हो वहाँ पे? So आप ice cream क्यों नहीं रखते हो? And the reality of this is when I look at China, I mean, guess what will be among the top selling products for KFC in China?
Congee
and momos.
Really?
So I think it is. You're from
company,
China.
not a chicken
And
company.
most people don't get
Really?
it.
Yeah.
Congee and momos in the morning is the biggest, one of the top selling. I don't know the biggest, but top selling products. So that is the job of the QSR to make it more Indian or more Chinese or more.
No, you're right. My grandmom, like dad's mom, you met her.
Yes, of course.
So for her, when she wanted to indulge, and she's a huge cheese lover, by the way. She and I inherit that from her. She would be like, Shantanu, today for dinner, let's do McDo's. And what is McDo's? Is it McDonald's or Domino's? She's like, either. I'm okay either. But we used to go then. So she would say,
Burger pizza is the answer.
I think she would go and then we would just order whatever she wanted. But I remember, you're right. I think tier 3, tier 4 aspiration is also because I think you're just seeing a lot, right? Visually, you're seeing it a lot on content everywhere.
So growing up on social media,
People are taking, food is one of the most socially shareable things. Suddenly you're sitting in Vidisha and your reels are full of people sharing stringy cheese, and it's a visually very appealing product.
What you just said, seeing a lot and experiencing a lot, makes me believe that in the restaurant trade, they're missing a trick. Okay, so no longer is idli a South Indian product. Okay, I think Delhi serves amazing, South Indian here, as much as aloo parathas sell in Bangalore. Okay, lots. There is not one chain that has come in that has gone, like how Domino's or McDonald's has gone in for what we may consider a foreign product, which has done a totally indigenous, restaurant has not come up. I think there's a huge space. Someone will do it, before, many jump into this whole business. Just as you got into Chaayos, meaning somebody should have thought about it before. Why everybody is doing only coffee and you got into Chaayos. I think somebody will get into this, South Indian paratha.
Usme there's a problem. So I was telling Raghav, I was very early at Faso's, which is now Rebel Foods, 2012 when Faso started.
Correct.
And at that time, the stated aim was to create the Domino's of wraps.
Yeah.
कि ये सारे बाहर के खाने जो हैं, बर्गर, पिज्जा, इन सबको लोगों ने QSR बना दिया है, प्रोसेसाइज कर दिया है, स्टैंडर्डाइज कर दिया है. इंडियन फूड को किसी ने नहीं कहा. दिस वाज एग्जैक्टली द प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट. एंड वी आर लाइक रैप बचपन से क्या होता है, जो पिछले दिन की सब्जी बची होती है उसको रोटी में डाल के दे देते हैं, राइट? सो हम इसको स्केल करेंगे. कट टू व्हेन वी ट्राइड टू डू इट, वन मेजर प्रॉब्लम, आई डोंट नो इफ इट्स सॉल्व्ड नाउ, इज वेस्टर्न फूड इज वेरी मॉड्यूलर. सो बर्गर इज 2 बन, बीच में एक पैटी, एक चीज स्लाइस, एक टमाटर, एक प्याज, एंड काफ़ी इसको आप मॉड्यूलर करके अलग अलग चीज़ें बना के रख के कर सकते हो. वी वर ट्राइंग टू डू इंडियन फ्लेवर्ड रैप्स, राइट? तो उसमें सब्जियां जा रही थी कि शाही पनीर रैप है और कॉर्न टिक्की रैप है, बड़े 6-7 तरह के ग्रेवीज वेवीज जा रही थी. स्टैंडर्डाइजिंग इंडियन फूड is exceptionally tough. मसाले कितने पड़ने चाहिए हर जगह पे. Like one major problem we had when we were trying to scale biryani, हम बिरयानी भी बेचते थे फासोस में, was how do you standardize rice cooking? The hardness of water that you're getting everywhere is different, and the stove का वो heat is different. The boiling point of water is different. तो इसको मैं standardize कैसे करूँ? हर जगह पे, हर शहर में, हर दुकान में अलग हो रहा था, मसाले अलग हो रहे थे, right? So like scaling Indian food is, at least in my experience in that time, seemed to be far tougher than scaling.
I'm just very encouraged by Faso. You mentioned about Rebel, and look at what they've done with Behrus. In the biryani range, meaning it's all that you said. You know, cooking rice is not easy, but they have found a way to standardize, and it's become a very big, big brand. It's thrown up many other biryani brands. Okay, and people have jumped in. And look at what Sagar Ratna has done here in Delhi on just South Indian
food. Yeah,
I think there are 80 plus Sagar Ratnas in just the Delhi NCR.
Are you serious?
Yes, region alone.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think it can.
And it's
be
amazing. The food is amazing.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah. No, you're right. There is an opportunity. It's just
About how
tougher. But yeah, maybe that's the reason to do it. Like, because if you do it, then it's tougher to disrupt also.
You know, focus on, and I see the difference. We work with 3 sets of companies in US. One is Domino's, which does only Domino's. Their stated strategy is they will not buy any other QSR or brand, not go into burgers or anything. So Domino's. Then there is RBI, Restaurant Brand International, which owns rights for Tim Hortons, Burger King, Popeyes. And then there is Inspire, which has Dunkin', Sonic, many other brands, Quinzo subs and all. So if one of the learnings is, so McDonald's is only McDonald's.
Correct.
Very successful, right? And Domino's is only Domino's.
And they did McCafes, which is
right. So they did. The point I'm making is the power of focusing on one particular cuisine or brand and being relentless about it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I went to Domino's Ann Arbor for the first time. You know what they were working on? One of the most boring things. So if you go to Domino's store, you'll see stacks of pizza boxes because our rush comes in 7 to 11. So we make the boxes earlier. They were working on technology simple processes and tools so that you don't have to fold the box. The most mundane thing, right? Everything I किसी को बोल दो यार एक कर देगा ना एक रख लो एक क्या है वो उस पे काम करते हैं.
But उसको scaling सोचिए आप.
And then across 20,000 stores, if you are able to take off 5 seconds of box folding.
Amazing.
Right, the amount of man hours you will be able to save, right, and your stores will look much nicer. You will be able to. So I think the one thing I have learned from Germans, Americans mostly, their ability to go so deep into a process and make it dumbify so much and continuously innovate on it, and not leave it कि हो गया यार हमने solve कर दिया अब इसमें क्यों दिमाग लगाना है. So that bit to me is something. And then I again learned this from Russell, who's the CEO of Domino's, that if we were to shave off 5 seconds of delivery time every year, we would have moved from 30 minutes to 20 minutes delivery. It's such a powerful thing and yet so difficult to execute, taking off 5 seconds, 10 seconds every year, right, from 30-minute delivery promise, you will be sitting at 20-minute delivery.
And yet you have the congee Momo example at KFC. Okay, so they did not, they recognized that the market context is bigger than the brand itself. And so they changed, and I think they captured the opportunity before anyone else did. So I don't know whether it's going to be an Indian company or it's going to be one of the bigger companies coming from overseas, but I just see the opportunity as being big. So who will do it, we don't know.
I think it's a matter of time. A lot of these companies, QSRs came in early 90s, 70s, 60s, late 60s in US. The income levels are about the same in India. China's like rise of QSR. So there are, just for context, there are 10,000 KFCs in India, in China, and total QSR industry in India is 5,000-6,000. So if income levels in India are exactly the same as what it was in China in 2007, 2008. And after that it mushroomed. Of course, China grew at 20%, 18-20% for 4-5 years in that period. I don't think we are growing at that pace, but even if we grow 7-8%, I think this is a huge opportunity for Indian entrepreneurs, brands like Chaayos. Even we are incubating a brand called Hong's Kitchen. Chinese is another cuisine, very tough to scale. There are internationally no scaled brands in Chinese food.
Is it?
Same reason नहीं होएगा.
Same reason.
But it's more modular than Indian food,
नहीं
right?
नहीं
नहीं.
They'll have a carb
Gravies
base like
बनती
rice or
हैं.
noodles, and there'll be like some sauce
मेरे
base.
fresh vegetables ही नहीं पहुंच पाती.
जहाँ पे और जहाँ पे gravy आ जाती है.
every
game में.
like 40-50 kilometers you go, the cuisine changes.
In China.
No, I'm talking about like Chinese for
हम
India,
तो
for example.
इंडो चाइनीज बोल रहा हूँ कि प्याज टमाटर प्याज शिमला
But
मिर्च
it's
वगैरह
also-
डाल के
यार ग्रेवी जहाँ आ जाती है ना, मतलब जहाँ
But
मसाले
gravy factory में नहीं, can't you guys make gravy for, like, why can't we make factoryize the
No,
entire
you
back
can,
end?
but then freshness goes for a toss because फिर एक सेंट्रल किचन में बन के आएगा और यहाँ पे रीहीट होएगा, फिर वो फ्रेशनेस की फाइट आ जाती है उसमें.
also the wok, right, is like a seems like a very simple thing,
Yeah, it's very-
very hard to replicate.
Yeah.
आपने जैसे बिरयानी वाला 2 मिनट तेज आंच पे कर दिया, जल गया, नहीं करा तो कच्चा रह गया, ठीक से मिक्स नहीं करा तो सॉस इधर, राइट. सो
शशांक, जो आपने बोला ना कि जो भी बिजनेस बहुत मुश्किल लगता है करने के लिए, अगर आप वो कर लेते हैं तो you have built a solid moat, meaning that nobody else can come. I am seeing on Chinese, for instance, look at what Wow Momos is doing.
Yeah.
Okay, I think no one thought Wow Momos become as big as it has become already here, or a Food Panda in the US. They're everywhere. Okay, so Food Panda is not a small chain. It's massive. So yeah, it's not as big as McDonald's is. Maybe there is a chain in, I don't know China so well, but I'm assuming that there is a Chinese, massive chain that does Chinese.
not as big as KFC and
Yeah, not as big as the KFC. But also, like, just interesting on Chinese food is that, like, you have a Indian Chinese, you have a version of Chinese in every country you go.
Yes.
So Indian Chinese is not the only unique Chinese food, because in most places where they go first, as the immigrants go and set up the Chinatown, they realize that people may not take to the subtle tastes or taste differences in the Chinese food, especially from the region they've come from. And even Chinese food is just like Indian food, a wide variety of food, a really wide. It's a huge country with a very diverse variety of food. So every country has their own version. So if you go and eat Chinese food in different countries, unless it has a specific label to it, like Sichuan food or something like that, it will just taste very different, and it will be customized to the palate of the country and become big that way. And that's why it doesn't have chains
And
working there.
if you again, like, I think food and history and evolution are so linked that I would again say, on an XY axis, if you plot the age of a civilization and how scalable its food is, it's inversely proportional. Because food has become a lot more complex in old civilizations.
Yeah.
The scaled food is of very
New.
early countries. हमारा खाना कॉम्प्लेक्स है, चाइना का खाना कॉम्प्लेक्स है, उस खाने को स्केल करने में फाइट लगती है, राइट. वो इतने वर्जन्स पनप चुके हैं हर जगह पे, इतने सारे डिफरेंट टेस्ट एंड इतने सारे डिफरेंट वेज ऑफ मेकिंग इट, और इतने सारे वेरिएशंस etc. Food becomes complex over time because people keep experimenting and civilizations keep evolving, etc. मतलब no disrespect, but burger is like a 200-year-old thing which hasn't evolved.
also use of fresh ingredients. I think
that's also
so their supply chain fails. I mean, you can store a pizza dough for actually the best dough is third day.
Oh, is it?
Right. So it is inherently the product is supposed to be matured, right? So versus you try to cook a Chinese stir fry with whatever Indian ingredients, could be beans or gajar or whatever. If it is not fresh, you will not taste it well. If it is next, so I think that's another reason that I felt that.
But और शशांक, आपने जो civilizational बोला, I think coming back is the whole thing about the local context. About Arjun, you said Sichuan or Cantonese. This has a context to those people. You have to ensure that you're not giving them food that you like. You have to give them what they want. So for the longest time, and that may be true for many of us here. Before I went to Mexico, I thought Taco Bell was the best Mexican food there is in the world, because we're just being fed on that. And to your point, it is this new civilization that brought it and thrust it upon us.
Yeah.
You go to Mexico and your opinion of Mexican changes completely because you think it's such a fine, rich cuisine.
Yeah, and complex.
And
very complex.
Exactly.
No one eats those tacos there.
Absolutely. So yeah, I think so. Whether it's pizzas or burger, I think the Italians will rebel against.
I agree. I agree. हम तो New York pizza खाते हैं. मतलब not New York. I don't know, some US version of pizza खाते हैं. But yeah.
But I think one of the common things in these with scale are dim sum. So dim sum can scale.
Correct.
Things which have gravy and all cannot scale.
Correct.
So dim sum chains are things that scale, and you will go to every city where there will be there's a thing called dim sum also in UK, which is a scale chain. So this type of food does scale, but it is the less complex but high varianting, which you talked about, and in that you can innovate the flavors and localize them a lot because you can mix anything into them. And then even in dim sum, there's a particular type of dim sum called Xiaolong Bao. I don't know if you've had it. That basically has a soup inside it. It's a really delicacy. If you've not had it, you should try it. Where you puncture a hole in it and then you drink the soup and then you eat the
sounds
dim
amazing.
sum. It's fantastic. It's really tasty. Now in that, when I was out last month in China, I went to a place and we ordered the Xiaolong Bao, and he said, this is really genuine handmade Xiaolong Bao. So I said, what's the difference? Like, for me, it's like this. So he says, you have it and you tell me. So the difference that you can make out in this is that if you go to a QSR or a chain restaurant equivalent and have this thing, it's made in a mold, the dim sum. So the top where the folds are of the dim sum will look exactly the same in every dim sum. But when it's made with the hand, it cannot be the same. Secondly, if it's made with a mold or it's made in a process in a QSR type of format, the outer covering is super thin. But with the hand, you can't get the thinness. So it's thick. But if it's thick, it can hold more soup.
Right.
The thin one tears and the soup falls out. So there's a huge difference. And for the person who eats this regularly, you can make out the difference. And maybe perhaps that's why it doesn't scale. So when I'm in China, a lot of people visit me and say that, we want to eat dim sums, and in our building, there's a Din Tai Fung. If a person comes for the first time, I take them to Din Tai Fung. But if they really want to eat good dim sums, I never take anyone to Din Tai Fung. Because I always say that Din Tai Fung is for tourists.
Right.
It's not for the real connoisseur of dim sums. You want to go to a standalone place where the dim sums are made with a hand. So again, for a food that's foreign to you, you won't recognize that difference because you'll be like, a dim sum is a dim sum, I'll just put it in my mouth. But then you can see the subtle differences. But I guess this also comes with what Shashank says, income level and Maslow's hierarchy and all that stuff, where whether the dim sum is made by a hand or a machine makes a difference to you. But it's also like, how do they get the soup inside is a skill. In a QSR restaurant, what they'll do is, the meat will have the soup frozen around it. So when it's steamed, because it's pre-made, it'll melt. Now that's a different taste versus when you're making the thing, you pour the soup in and you heat it. You come with a very different outcome and a very different taste. But then, that's food for you. It's very subtle.
But the fun thing there, maybe the opportunity is, जो बंदा पहली बारी dim sum खा रहा है, अगर मैं पहली बारी खा रहा हूँ, then I don't know what the history of the Xiaolong Bao is, right? So maybe you can take that food and scale it internationally, but not in that country, right? तो Taco Bell बना के बाहर चले जाओ, Mexico में मत scale करना.
I think momos might be one of those. Like, I genuinely believe that there should be an opportunity for an Indian.
No, there is. And Wow Momo's just done that.
Have they done it outside India?
I think they have a few stores outside India, but I'm not sure. But it's easily doable.
Wow also got into Chinese now, by the way.
Wow Momo's is Chinese.
No, the momos and their...
And there's Wow Chinese.
Wow Chinese, no?
Yeah. Wow China.
Wow China, correct. It's called Wow. Outside. But what is you guys are talking about in the break, the KFC story in China? What has led to it being that big?
I think this is a story of every brand in China, whether it's food or non-food.
No, but when you say it sells more coffee than Starbucks, for example.
They were early, na?
Was it an early thing or was it
they were very early and they expanded the menu in a certain way to the taste of the Chinese consumer. So I think also when you see rapid growth in any country, and it will happen here as well as our economy moves from 3 to 18 trillion, the same journey that happened in China, is that during that phase, incomes expand and consumer tastes expand and change very, very rapidly. And I think there's a big prize for businesses which are able to customize and cater to that taste rather than taking a template from the West and just putting it into the country.
There's a very interesting case study of Luckin Coffee in China.
How?
So the last three months, they've opened 3,000 stores.
What?
Who is this?
Which coffee is this?
Luckin Coffee.
Luckin. It's the number one brand. Luckin.
They're now bigger than Starbucks in China by revenue.
That's like 35 stores a day.
Wow.
These are actually very small takeaway, very different model, completely opposite of Starbucks.
Yeah. Tell more about this. I don't know.
He will.
I can take you through the model if you want of these brands which are coming, and then of
There are
course
two of them actually.
Yeah, there are two of them. There's Luckin, and then there's I mean there are multiple brands, but the other big one in Shanghai Plus is a brand called Manna.
Okay.
Which also fantastic. And I think this is more my interpretation than someone has shown me a case study, because I go to these coffee shops every day. Is that I think they've come to the insight that coffee penetration has become very high. I mean, this is my hypothesis of the business model. And lots of people drink coffee, and a lot of people who drink coffee usually take it away rather than drink in. They're not always sitting around and having coffee. They don't have time because everyone is on the go, especially in a city type of atmosphere. And the way they design their stores is very basic. Actually, there's no sitting space, or if there's a sitting space, there's max one sitting space or two, and they are purposefully designed to be uncomfortable so that people don't sit there for long, or it doesn't become like a third space where you're sitting and running your office or taking interviews or doing your work from home day from there. I think their business model is based on extreme operational efficiency, that why should I pay your rent? You're here to have coffee. I'll give you a great coffee at half the price of the premium place which wants you to sit around and have the coffee. We don't need to do that. I'll give you a better coffee. I'll give you great service. I'll give you fantastic innovation, because there they have like coffee mixed with alcohol and all types of flavors. You can't imagine some of the flavors. And of course, all these companies are technology companies masquerading as coffee companies. So they build the technology ground up first of satisfying the orders, operating in a small space. You order, most of the stuff is ordered by app. So if I go to my office and I want to have a coffee, I'm practically one of the only guys who goes to the counter. And then everyone is like super confused because they don't even like take cash. And of course, they don't speak English. So I have order written down in Chinese and I show it to the person. But most of the orders have a M in front of them, which means they were ordered on the mobile app. And they are just lined up like, like a factory, product after product, bag after bag with the numbers on them. And the counter just keeps telling you and you go and pick it up. And these are the more successful coffee shops than the ones that we are used to, or let's say how coffee is developing here is still a version of a place where you go and sit down and have coffee. So they've just turned the business model upside down on its head. But you might have more insights into this.
Yeah, I think you're pretty right. But I think there was a penetration of quality coffee within experience first.
Yeah.
When Starbucks got to say 4,000, 5,000 stores in the country, and
you talk about China or India?
We're talking about China.
China.
Yeah. So I think then is when it created that market that look, there is an aspiration to have that coffee, and then there is a if I'm able to get it at half the price point, and it's locally available and it's fast and it's good coffee, then
yeah, exactly. So. And it's what we talked about in the previous podcast. What we talked about Red Bull and Sting.
Correct.
That first someone creates the aspiration for you, which is a 10x benefit, but then you can't get the benefit so much more, so you drop the price. Correct. And you come in at a different tier. And I think the other thing that they do, like for example, what Manna Coffee does is if you bring your own cup, then the price is even lower.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So if you bring your own cups, the price is less than half. And that encourages people to become repeat customers as a result of that also.
But there's great learnings, to bring from China into India. Coming back to what Shantanu kept talking about, how do you build a brand, big brand in India?
Correct.
We see from Luckin Coffee, I'm just picking up. So in Pune, Bombay, I'm noticing that there is all of a sudden this thing called Amrut Tulya Chaha, meaning, it's like a chai shop.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So you can get like a cup for, it's like a shot, like a 60 ml shot of chai for 10 rupees. Okay, it's like syrup which will not go down beyond your gullet. I think. But that aftertaste is so strong that you think it's like more value than the money you've paid. But they're like springing up everywhere I find. Then outside college.
Amrut Tulya, is it?
Amrut Tulya. They call it Amrut Tulya. And some chaha and then there are, I forget.
Amrut Tulya.
Oh.
Yeah. So I think like Reckitt in China, I wouldn't be surprised if someone were to take this Amrut Tulya thing, and maybe you can do it as one part of Chaayos can do it, and they don't need too much space. They need like small store frontage. It's clean, so college kids can hang out, workmen can hang out. People are just to finish office during lunch or after during a tea break they go and hang out. 10 rupees ka chai they have, feel good about it and come back. So it's entirely possible the Reckitt model will work also in India. Just you have to contextualize it to us.
Especially in office parks where people are in a hurry.
Of course.
And they just want to take away.
Of course.
And I think also maybe in the Chaayos business where you see takeaway becoming so high, I think at some point of time, if you don't question it, someone else will have to question the business model and say, why do I need to pay rent for all these seats? Or do I need these seats everywhere? Or you go into 3 formats. One is a takeaway window, one is a takeaway plus slide seat, and one is a proper sitting restaurant. I mean, I don't understand the business fully, but you will always segment and further segment your model. And if you don't meet the need, someone will come up and scale very fast. I think here still scaling food businesses doesn't happen as fast, but as we were saying that you can open 35 stores a day. People can build those types of processes and move fast, but that is where technology and these businesses blend, and you can't make out the difference sometimes. Whether it's a physical business or a technology business first, because if a person is thinking technology up, technology scales much faster than a physical business. So they are already thinking of how they can replicate and scale, and by the way you sell a physical product.
What actually works very well with beverages and what we've seen as well is once you it's very largely impulse, right? So you don't plan ki I'm going to sit in my car and I'm going to drive 30 minutes and get a cup of chai. So you have to be present everywhere. What we see is that our frequency goes up in a city as we keep adding more number of stores. So if I'm present, if I'm present under your business park, I'm present in the favorite mall you go to, I'm present at the airport. You will just end up getting used to it because you're anyway consuming 2 to 3 cups of chai a day. Now, how do I become your cup of chai? So I think that frequency play beyond a certain density, I think these kind of models come into play, and that's how we see it as well. That we would want to get into these kind of automated, maybe unmanned kind of formats as well, where you can just go and get a cup of chai.
By the way, that double jeopardy principle is the first one that any marketer learns when you start working. That penetration drives consumption, and both move hand in hand. So as your penetration and brand penetration increases, your consumption also moves up, which you're seeing. But I think you have a more practical way of doing it. Is that if I see a Chaayos here and I see another one and then I see one next to my house, I'll tend to plan my consumption and
around it.
It's everywhere where I want it to be. So then it also becomes a convenient brand to add to my repertoire. That I never have to think that, and that's one of the reasons why some of these brands become super successful, that I know wherever I go, I will get the standardized coffee or tea.
You don't have to go out of your way.
I don't have to go out of my way to think about it.
So good a point. I remember this is about 30 years ago when Tropicana came to India. So Tropicana did research.
It's a Pepsi brand, is it? Tropicana?
It was, meaning it was a Seagram brand, and then now it's a Pepsi brand. But I know that initial research showed that this product will not do well in India. So India was a fresh squeeze, orange juice market. It was thin juice and it was sweet as hell. As in Indian oranges are sweet. So this product to thoda bitter bhi hai, pulpy hai, it will not do well. So don't launch was the whole thing. But by then, Seagram had already taken the first few steps. They said, chalo, let's go to Tetra Pak and through their pilot facility, let's go do some test launch. And that test launch happened and they've never looked back. Okay, the thing is they sold more than every projection that they could have. Behind them now you got more brands, Real has come in, and they've redefined what is an orange juice in India. So consumption following just availability. So I guess, it's also important for somebody in the food business, and maybe, you will redefine how people are going to have healthy bars. You're just making it available in different flavors. People begin to say, okay, now that's the market. I always wanted this. So I think that is probably one of the biggest hot buttons that food people must understand. Is you've got to sometimes go with your gut. Say, okay, time is right. I think we've got to trust and just go with this product line. And there are many successes of this kind.
I think the difference I would draw is, I think penetration of category.
Correct.
Is a key necessary condition before you do that, right? Like, I think the Amrutalya would happen in chai in India, not in coffee yet, because coffee का तो अभी penny बढ़ रहा है,
बिल्कुल.
right? Same with orange juice happened because orange juice penetration is 100%, right? So someone came in and disrupted and made it more available and more accessible, etc. Different for protein bar because category penetration is so low that अभी तो aspiration build करनी है, and जब वो हो जाएगी और बहुत prevalent हो जाएगा, तब कोई आके बोलेगा प्रोटीन ही चाहिए ना, मैं इतने में काट के दे देता हूँ, तो वो होएगा. I think penetration is the necessary condition to do this, and I actually don't know if distribution can drive penetration in a under-penetrated category, because there I think mental reach needs to precede physical reach.
Salience has to be there.
Yeah, and वो करना market development is like exceptionally tough. Like,
But do you know that in Chandni Chowk now there are now avocado on toast guys in Chandni Chowk? Yeah.
No, there are food is very interesting in terms of trends, right? Like some ingredients in food historically every 5 years just spike. Like avocado is having its day in the sun right now, right? Like similarly,
You think it's a fad more than a
not
trend?
fad, मतलब it will reach a peak and stabilize. And कुछ जगहें उसको Instagram worthiness के लिए करेंगी कि हमारे यहाँ पे avocado toast मिलता है. But food में ingredient trends are a big thing, and interestingly, actually, all trends actually start in food. So you see personal care also. All personal care ingredient trends are food. So you, in fact, just look at the name of the words: cream, mousse, butter. These are foods. Avocado, shea butter, cocoa. These are foods, right? So all ingredient trends start here, and then ingredient peaks. उस time पे अगर उस ingredient को खेल जाओ, तो you get a, like hazelnut I think is a emerging trend. It 100% is something which किसी भी चीज़ में डाल दो. चॉकलेट हेजलनट वाली बहुत बिकती है हमारी, प्रोटीन बार हेजलनट वाली बहुत बिकती है. आई एम श्योर मैं वे प्रोटीन निकालूंगा हेजलनट वाला वो भी बिकेगा. There is a ingredient trend happening on avocado, on this.
Korean also. Korean is a big
big trend happening.
Like Korean music, Korean
It's become very
cosmetics.
culturally relevant now.
But that's because that's called the Hallyu wave. So that's because they have a ministry which is dedicated
to exporting
to
the
exporting. So they've
Yeah.
created the infrastructure to exporting their culture to
Yeah.
other people
Yeah.
through music, through food, through everything. I lived there for three and a half years. So I've witnessed it firsthand. But it is a very conscious effort to create and to push it. Coming back to what you were saying, I had a question. This trend of food moving to beauty, is it because it's easier to accept a different format because food is so familiar? Or is it because it brings out emotion because food is very emotive and you can make an emotional connection directly with a beauty product? Or is it both, or is it something else?
I think
Why do you think it travels like that?
At least if you would ask me, our research says that if you, like, it is the most food captures your sensorial delight in beautiful ways. Like when he says the word butter,
does something.
Your brain lights up in multiple ways, which are positive. There's softness, there's smell, there is a lot of those cues that come in, which personal care derives a lot from.
I can vouch for it because I was telling him before coming here, I shaved and used the Bombay shaving turmeric, right? I mean shaving cream foam, right? Intuitively, I feel like I'll get a cut, right? Which I do, like, right? Turmeric is good, right? Or what, again, being Indian, somebody has customized the boring shaving cream to something which I feel maybe it is better, right? And I hate shaving, right? So but I have to do it, and I'm in foods business. But let me use. Therefore, I keep on cutting myself, and like turmeric is good.
But which razor are you using? Sorry.
वो मैं आपको बाद में बताऊंगा. वो आपका नहीं. I still not moved. Don't have the guts to.
I think there's another deeper reason why that happens. We like these ingredients for, let's call it goodness, right? Like there's some goodness in them. Food goes inside. So food is the litmus test. If it feels good inside, I assume it will be good on the outside, on my skin, etc. It's a very subliminal, like subconscious acceptance. कि अंदर जाके अच्छा कर रहा है तो बाहर तो अच्छा करेगा ही. I think that's where the goodness transfers from food a lot more. It'll never happen the other way around. I can guarantee you that no chemical or anything that goes into a personal care thing, because you've been using it for 20 years, you'll start eating it.
Yeah.
Because that's not the...
No, but the fact, I worked in hair care for many years. The fact that onion made it to the hair was, when I first saw it, it was a big shock for me. I never, the most you would think is coconut. But there are things in food which can make it to different parts of your body.
Even
very fast.
beer.
Yeah, beer shampoo.
Beer was always there. I think beer was always there because it was considered to have some properties.
Honestly,
but onion making it to the hair was...
Onion, eggs, both. Like,
all of
they
us,
smell bad.
Fundamentally, especially in our country, because we have such a rich history of, the mythology books and Vedas and Granths, we know that actual personal care starts from the inside. Right? Inherently, we know it. कि ये ऊपर लगाने वाला personal care symptomatic होता है. Actual personal care, food is personal care, actually, right? Everyone knows this, which is why things keep going from food into personal care. क्योंकि हमारे सारे ग्रंथों में जो नुस्खे लिखे हैं, दादी माँ के नुस्खे हैं, they all start with some ingredient, right? ये शिकाकाई लगा लो, ये नीम लगा लो, ये लगा लो, right? So it's all food ingredients which we did this. So there is an inherent strong belief that ये ingredient अच्छा करेगा in personal care.
I actually want to take the discussion more towards, our viewers are people who kind of are cued in to understand a space and then actually do what you guys have done, which is to kind of go and build businesses, scale them at the level like 2,000 like stores is just crazy scale. But when I see this from the outside, and I would love to kind of at the end of this next maybe 20-minute segment, is there a way we can put down a playbook for building a food and beverage business in India? Like, what are the do's, what are the don'ts? Because from outside in, like you said, it is so difficult to scale because of heterogeneity, or tastes are very different, or people are, have a very strong point of view on food, or it's very impulse. You can't plan for it. So how do you, or penetration is so important, so it's very capital intensive for the firm. But we have seen Haldiram, now they're talking about, it's a valued at $10 billion. You've taken a product that is fundamentally not Indian, but in like maybe 30 years, less than 30 years, has made it, like, is it $1 billion now in top line? Getting there. That's insane, right? So we have seen scale, right? You've seen it TastyBite from an export standpoint and so on. But when I spoke to you, for example, you said, we are almost tapping out market share in chai in a country that is, that is fundamentally chai drinking. So how do we kind of get coffee drinkers to come to Chaayos or expand the market? Or in your case, you're saying, सिर्फ वो affluence वाले इसमें ही चल रहा है, that's where I will operate. But then the whole truth has to be a brand at scale. So how does an entrepreneur who's passionate about food and beverages in general, whether it's a service, restaurant business, or as a product brand business, or an export business, or in general building a brand of any kind, how do they do it? And it's important to like put down from your learnings, of course, क्या करना चाहिए और क्या नहीं करना चाहिए. And you also invested in a lot of them, so you actually have multiple points.
So look, I think part of the stuff has come out in the discussion, as in, so what is trending at this time? Top line, health is trending, so health is a given, as in, even if you think about an indulgent product, you've got to have something health, to speak of. The second is getting deep into the roots of our culture. I really like what Shashank said about our grunts and all that. So I relate to something like a Ruah Afza, for instance, where I grew up with Ruah Afza as a small child, and Ruah Afza still rules. Okay, there is no replacement for a Ruah Afza as yet, or a khaskhas, or a thanda evening is all there. So I think it's about identifying gaps that exist, huge gaps that exist. Like I spoke about South Indian not having been done, or parathas not having been done. Now, yeah, sure, the technology is not readily available, but somebody will do it, or somebody should invest. I'm saying spend years of research. I would go to CFTRI and hugely criticize the work that they do. They have 800 scientists.
What is CFTRI, sir?
It's the Central Food Technological Research Institute in Mysore.
Okay.
So they have 800 PhDs and about 3,000 scientists overall that work. But if you look at every single product that has been launched in India, it has come out of a company, like a private company has done something and brought it out. Okay, so CFTRI cannot claim to have done anything like big in India, but companies need to invest. Companies need to invest very deeply. I think at one level, just being Indian, I just feel not happy that what we are selling is something that was born in America. So we are selling. So no, I don't mean anything wrong for, say, a Domino's, but the thing is, we are selling pizza, burgers, everything else which is not native. So there is a certain aspiration level that we are dishing out, which is great. I think as the world becomes international, it must happen, but it's never going to go local. Is never going to go away. That craving is always going to be there, and I think there is the need for us to identify something that a Ruah Afza did, 50 years ago or more. Somebody needs to do for local stuff that people really love, having. So I would say that's one thing that does come to my mind. Amul, for instance, has grown with that one single thing. Doodh, dahi, ghee, acha hota hai. And they've stayed with that. Okay, so from the 60s onwards, they haven't moved away. They could have thought that I'm a huge umbrella, I can create a huge umbrella brand, but their umbrella is within the doodh itself. Every milk product, that there is, Amul will continue to launch and do. I think like that, I think we've got to find, there's some always this hidden, latent desires, that people have. We just need to go and find those and get into them.
Correct. I actually agree with that. So when we started out, it was almost like we almost questioned that what is going to be the future of a chai cafe? Does anybody even need it? But it was that latent demand. Like it was a problem that say a chai drinker who wants to go outside and get a great cup of chai, where do they go? There was no place available. But then again, it's like I look at any of the startup brands who are say 200 crores to 500, 600 crores today. And examples of, say, a Box 8, a Wow Momo, us, a California Burrito, a Blue Tokai. So these are all brands that have taken the 10 years and they've built and they've gone in with say, this is what I'm going to build. This is the gap I'm going to plug into the market. But it takes time. It takes capital. It takes time. It takes acceptance. And now I strongly believe that anything less than 8 to 10 years is not sufficient to build a consumer brand. Yeah.
Anything actually, yeah. Any CPG business, any consumer products business, koi chance nahi hai.
So I think like in this space especially, I think you have to go with a strong customer problem statement that could be, say, Vamomo picked that very well. It's a product that has a latent demand and it does not have a standardized supply. So I think being able to plug that supply demand gap, but it takes time and it might seem 1, 2, 3 years into the business, you might be like, okay, this is just a limited market. But I think the Indian growth story is real and to your point that, you guys have hit a certain market share, but I think as the consumer evolves, as the Indian middle class evolves, as there is more and more aspiration, more and more need for convenience, that is going to be the secret sauce. So I think just committing to a problem statement that a customer has, and then just building over a long period of time, and just being ready for that 10 to 15 years of grind, and then you build the brand.
So look at IDs is a great example. Yeah. Okay, IDs is a great example of what you've just said. Yeah. Is that the latent need is always there. घर में dosa idli banana hai, but it's a bother to get this thing
Urad dal and rice
rice ground up, and it's also a bother to go and buy from. Although lots of that have begun to happen, you can go and buy fresh from the market, but it's not so reliable and clean. So he got this nice packaging done. It's hermetically sealed. It's available at every kirana store. Just slightly more expensive than what you might get in the market, but very affordable.
Always fresh, huh?
Always fresh and very affordable. And what a brand! I'm a huge admirer of what IDs has gone and done. So the latent need was always there. I think and I'm sure there are many such latent needs that exist.
Another good example of that is Country Delight.
I love that.
So Country Delight has been able to just take a very regular consumption product and then make it higher quality, premium. I think those opportunities exist today.
Absolutely.
And 98% repeat rate. It's entirely subscription.
Absolutely.
That business, I think, I don't know current numbers, but when they were doing 100 crores a month, which was very recently, I think, they were, 5 lakh consumers. That's it. Into 2,000 rupees per month.
Correct.
100 crores a month.
But you know what? Country Delight actually, and Chakri is just a very phenomenally counterintuitive executor. So he said कि दूध का सारे जो playbooks हैं, we will not do that. So we will not increase shelf life. We don't want to adulterate milk to an extent where shelf life is increased, 3 to 4 day shelf life. Number 2, we will not rely on distribution of anyone else. Because my shelf life is low, I will only operate on my own. I will not do through grow, Blinkit and this and so, even Zomato, Swiggy, etc. I will do only myself on my own app, not nowhere else.
And saying that is one thing, and building that is
It's very different.
it's another thing.
And but when my mom, and you know how she is, when she has Country Delight, she finds it to be slightly yellow. So ये पक्का pure होगा, and then the stickiness is very high.
Like Paperboat is another great example. So because I just meet them so very often, but I'm full of admiration for what they've done. They've stuck by this thing about people's memories, that they link tastes and memories, and they said finally go back to your roots and say ghar mein it's all about aam panna that you were having, or it was having jal jeera, stuff like that. The thing is, and just serve it in a way that people find aspirational. So it is nicely packaged. It's, the initial packaging even looked like as if it's coming out of a bottle. So even though but it was not Tetra Pak, so it was not commoditized. Made it look nice, made it look premium, and you got what you could only get like in your home or in your grandparents' home. So I think recognizing that there's a latent need for these things is super important.
So you're saying there should be an element of wellness, health, because that is where tailwinds clearly are.
Yes.
There's an element of holding on to culture, which I think will create, and then you're saying there are latent needs, whether it's like ID or whether it's
or chai. His story of chai, that's a great example.
I think acceptability of Indian cuisine in a modern format, that's been growing pretty well. Like 20 years back, you would want to go out and have a cappuccino only. Today, people are comfortable flaunting the fact that I'm a chai drinker and I want to have that adrak tulsi chai. So that's definitely a wave that's coming in now.
Yeah, I think 2 insights before we move to the other side of the room. One is this whole thing of unbranded to branded.
Yeah.
Which is, we talked about democratization as one business model, but unbranded to branded is a big model. And sure, they are branded chais when they come into the house, but when it's made in the house and served, it's unbranded. If a side tapri guy does it, it's unbranded. So you've taken one of the greatest business models of all time, which is either you take a commodity or something which is unbranded and brand it, and that adds tremendous value, which is there. And I think the second insight, which should not be lost, which is not just true to a food business, but is true to any consumer business, as Shashank was saying, is that how do you quickly build a new brand? Slowly. That's how you quickly build a brand. And if you try to go too fast, you will break it along the way. Or if you put, SaaS type of VC KPIs to a consumer business, it's not going to work. So that's something to also keep in mind, that great brands are built with time and slowly, and you take your time and you do penetration, and that penetration leads to consumption, it leads to equity building, it leads to repeat, and you run the cycle again and again and again.
And hopefully the product becomes
Yeah.
better and
And,
better.
and you improve the product as you go by it.
Like DSG and BCG just put out a report on the state of the CPG startup nation, etc. It quantifies what all of us are saying. Average time to CPG IPO is 23 years. Average time. Yeah.
This is India? This is,
Yeah, India. Yeah. So there it is. So ये अगर मल्टी डेकेड गेम नहीं खेल रहे तो मत खेलो.
Yeah.
क्योंकि कोई नहीं बना पाया है इस जल्दी. Of course there are mama-earths, but that's the exception that proves the rule. It's not the rule. And on that, let me to answer your question of how to, it's a very broad question again, right? How do you build a food business? There are so many entry points. Health bhi hai, Indian taste bhi hai, modernization bhi hai, etc. So I actually first want to split packaged food and fresh restaurant food because completely different businesses. Packaged food mein, I think I want to take whenever I'm talking to any new entrepreneur in the space, I first take a P&L approach. That first understand the P&L of the packaged food business. It's a low gross margin business, right? Unilever ka personal care business is a 70% plus gross margin. Food business is 42% gross margin at their scale, right? All your Nestle's, Britannias of the world are 40-45% sort of gross margin, right? So it's a low gross margin business. Why is that relevant? Because अगर आपको 20% EBITDA की कंपनी बनानी है और आपका 42% का ग्रॉस मार्जिन है तो आप बेसिकली 10 से 12% एडवर्टाइजिंग भी खर्च सकते हो और 10% ओवरहेड्स पे खर्च सकते हो. दैट्स इट. 10-12% ऑन एडवर्टाइजिंग मीन्स अ ROAS of 10x.
Correct.
ROAS of 10x means you have to have a stellar product that has high repeats. Yeah. Unlike the personal care model where you can spend 30% of your P&L on acquiring consumers and your leaky bucket can be very leaky because the incoming is very fast. Not on food. You can't do mass media because it's very expensive. You don't have the money in your P&L. You can't afford to spend a lot on marketing, and hence retaining your acquired consumer and selling more and more to him or her at higher increasing frequency, increasing purchase occasions, increasing share of wallet is the only way to make this business. Hence, product is king. Product, medium product लेके market मत जाओ. मतलब product has to be stellar. And consistency of product over the years is by far the biggest input you will have in your business. Much more than your sexy marketing idea, much more than anything else. It's going to be साल दर साल एक पहले product crack मारा और innovate करो, नई नई चीजें निकालो, but अपने core product पे consistency over the years का कोई solve नहीं है, and it comes from the P&L. वो नहीं करोगे तो रिटेंशन नहीं होगी तो तुम्हारा धंधा नहीं बन सकता.
Which companies have you seen, like whether they have been created by large organizations or startups who are kind of, I would say anyone under 20 years old who has done this very well, which is kind of really gotten the product right, spot on, and then built it out slowly.
Actually, the examples I was giving, the big examples are very clear. Like Lay's, when they changed their core masala, people went, you saw that what happened, right? Like they changed the blue Lay's का उन्होंने formulation change करा. अभी एक साल पहले की बात है. People went up in arms.
Yeah.
Like literally people went up in arms. कि how dare you touch my blue
Magic
Lay's?
masala. Yeah.
हाँ.
It's 70% of Lay's apparently.
Yeah,
60 to 70% of Lay's it comes from one flavor.
One flavor.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I thought it was classic.
Same with Coke. Why do they safeguard their formula with their lives? Right. So, and it also ties back to what they were saying that focus का कोई काट नहीं है इस business में. It which is true by the way of CPG in general, not just in food, but even more so in food, because just if you take your eye off the ball of what you have in the hope of doing new stuff, if that changes and people lose that taste, retention will go, marketing money will have to go up to acquire new consumers. You don't have that marketing money, so you will not make a large business.
Yeah. No, repeat is so important, and getting a high rate. So even a repeat rate difference of 2%, which may seem like nothing, in a food business or a high frequency food business, if you have a 2% difference and it keeps compounding into 12-15 things, the gap will become so big, it will become like 2,000 basis points after a couple of years, that you won't get efficiency for your spend. So product superiority consistently is key to any business. Not just food business, but especially more in food, because every day you're fighting a craving. In a detergent business or in a personal care business, every day you're not fighting a craving. It's kind of a planned purchase. But every time a customer has to decide for food, you've lost the customer before you got them. And you have to find ways to keep them every time. Like especially in a service business, the probability that you lose the customer is high the moment they walk into your store. Because so many things can go wrong versus a packaged product or versus a detergent, that getting that repeatability with a superior product with consistent experience is super key to building a business. India or otherwise, anywhere.
I think food service retail, one of the things when you say great product, I think getting the right team and the right culture in place for any cafe, QSR, food retail brand, because
They are the product.
yeah, they are the product, absolutely. They are the brand, they are the product. Yeah. And it's actually, like Samir said, right? It is those individuals who are working on minimum wage. Now, it is those same set of people who would be in a Domino's, who would be working in a cloud kitchen, who would be working in a Chaayos. Now, what is the feeling of wearing that Chaayos uniform? What does that bring out for them? I think that is the key. Like how do you invest into that training before they hit the ground running? How does that come from within that, look, I have to go that extra mile to make that difference to the customer? So that for me in this industry, that is the biggest game changer. Your team and your culture and like the way that you're able to grow them over a period of time, and this compounds.
Have you seen people who kind of join at the very bottom rung and then kind of go into manager?
Absolutely.
Multiple cases, yeah.
I think in terms of a 27-year-old, so we have an SVP in our organization who joined as a restaurant manager, and we meet so many people. And one story, that anecdote I'll share, there is a circle business head, runs about let's say about 400-500 crores of business, and he said, मैंने भाग के शादी करी, and I was taking my wife on a motorcycle. वो देखा कि Domino's में कुछ चाहिए, right? So we were literally eloped and got married. तो मैं वहाँ पे I parked and I took up a job. Today I run a 400 crore P&L.
This is an ad, sir. You should record.
So I think it's so therefore coming.
How this must have been
about 15 years, right? Multiple such examples, right? Where there is a restaurant manager, उसने अपनी बेटी का नाम Domino's रख दिया.
These are wonderful stories.
So I think coming back to like the question that you were saying, I think if I were to write a book, how to build a successful QSR business, right? It'll have 5 or 6 chapters. Firstly, it is the most boring business, right? If you want to scale it up, right? We all start, I want to open a cafe, I want to get a farmhouse or have a bookshop. कोई इसमें excitement नहीं है. It is going to take 10 years, 12 years, right? It's as boring as it gets. Number 2, product goes into your mouth. वो अच्छा नहीं होगा तो सब बेकार है. अगर वो अच्छा हो गया तो बाकी सब नहीं भी चलाना तो तब भी वो you save the day, right? Our Domino's is not known for dine-in experience, but highest customer satisfaction is for customers who dine in, because there is nothing better than the freshest pizza out of the oven.
Correct.
गरम मुंह पे चलेगा, फिर आप सब भूल जाते हो यार मैं कहाँ बैठा हूँ. So the product is really the differentiator. Number 3 is you're working with people at minimum wages. Culture नहीं है, motivation नहीं है, तो वो नहीं चलता, business scale नहीं होता.
तो उनको कहाँ से आते? You think before you move to your 4th point, you think it comes from these experiences where they have the rise up the ladder is kind of
everything easy. Like you have to wear and I remember this in 97 I was working for Hindustan Lever, and we used to live in Andheri, and एक दिन light गई, rarely in Bombay in those days. We ordered pizza and Domino's का एक delivery boy was running up the stairs. यार क्या हो गया, भाग क्यों रहे हो सर, 30 minutes चले जाएगा. So I think what is important is that how do you build that culture when you wear that uniform, right? What an army man or a police person, man, woman, whatever wears when they wear the uniform, suddenly their chest goes big. How do you bring that culture? How do you bring that pride? कि मैं अच्छा पिज्जा बनाऊंगा. And I remember like one of our new Domino's business had joined. So last Mother's Day, He called everyone, आज ऐसे पिज्ज़ा बनना जैसे अपनी माँ के लिए बना रहे हो. People had tears in their eyes. So how do you like rally this like some 20,000 people on the call? It's not about market and this is the pie and like we have to grow so much. It has to be something a little more emotional, personal, right? And then he went and he made pizza for them, right, in the store at the middle of the night because he had a good day. So these are the stories. So culture is far more paramount over here, right? Then because there is no technology that can make sure that you do this day in, day out in 2,000 stores in 450 cities in India. Even in my tenure, I will never be able to go to 450 cities in Jubilant. But the culture can go, right? I think we are now becoming, last chapter will be, we are becoming more ops and tech company than food company. I think for all QSRs, for all everybody, I think it is, you have to directly reach out to consumers, have to have an app, you have to have a kitchen operating system, you have to have shelf life management, people management, attendance management, the rider who is going, right? Now we have to do facial recognition 3 times during the hour because he can pass on the order to somebody. So we are becoming far more technology oriented than ever before, right? And it is about ops. So I think these will be my 4 or 5 chapters of if I have to write a book.
But I think because pizza is a space, pizza and biryani are spaces, I think here where we are seeing a lot of mushrooming of brands. Like in pizza also, for example, I think you have inspired. I've eaten Tossin, Fat Lulu's, Pino's, Nomad, so many different Oven Story from Rebel.
Yeah.
Everyone has their, everyone has their own positioning. Everyone has their but they've all figured out that this is a base, kind of margarita. And how do I build on top of this and able to offer?
उन्होंने penetration कर दिया ना, तो अब
correct, अब category बना दी है,
अब सब कुछ मैं low cost वाला ले आता हूँ, मैं और high cost वाला ले आता हूँ, मैं ये innovation वाला ले आता हूँ, gourmet वाला ले आता हूँ.
But it's amazing because you kind of are the spearhead and then the country will have.
But if you ask the founders, obviously I'm not the founder, I'm a paid employee. Right, in 97, there were no TAM, there was no market, there was no, उनको लगा यार कि ये उनसे पूछो अगर, right, both the gentlemen, if you ask them, क्या सोच के लेके आए थे? And they were not into food business, they were into industrial chemicals and pharmaceuticals. उन्होंने कहा यार हम लोगों ने पिज्जा खाया, आधे घंटे में आ गया यार जापान में. मुझे अच्छा लगा यार कि. So sometime like I think all like. Therefore, hats off to you folks because you are all entrepreneurs. I am a paid employee in this room. Right? Sometimes you can do all the analysis, but if you also ultimately have to follow your gut and के चाय बिकेगी इंडिया में यार मतलब वरना you will say my first job was in Hindustan Lever in tea. And the book I wrote first chapter of Brook Bond when I used to work there. India is a tea drinking country and US and Germany are coffee drinking country. It was the first line. We also read it as a Bible. हाँ यार इंडिया में सब चाय पीते हैं. Right now, you see the proliferation of coffee. Right, you see the proliferation of coffee in China.
Crazy.
It's crazy, right? So I think it is you have to take those bets also. Ultimately, if you are, an MBA like me can write a book, but an entrepreneur can throw that book and say यार मेरे मन में आ रहा है मैं करता हूँ उसको. Both are important.
But आपने जो bet लिया ना about freshness and you spoke about one of the chapters about just getting the consumer to feel this freshness piece. That is very different from Domino's anywhere else in the world. Domino's, like Pizza Hut, is a dine-in place. Domino's is a delivery place, except in India. So they don't have cutlery, crockery. Domino's does not have, but they actually have a storefront where people can sit. The place is minimalist, but there's fairly high footfall there.
Domino's in India has the highest throughput per store in the world.
There you go.
By 30% more than.
Right, and I'm assuming a significant component of that is people coming in and just eating there in the store, which is very different from anywhere else in the world. So
35%.
Even though it was about Hari and Sham saying let हमको आधे घंटे में मिल गया, but the fact is that they the team figured out that having a storefront in India is very important.
Yes, they figured out. Yes.
India is also the largest market now for Domino's, right? Like
no, so Domino's worldwide has 20,000 stores. We are opening our 2,000 store tomorrow.
So 10%.
So 10%, and US will be still biggest. I think about 7,000 or 8,000 stores.
Something I was reading about market cap, etc. Something is like.
I mean, again, I should not be saying it. Should be humble, but I think what happened to what Maruti Suzuki did to Suzuki, or what Hindustan Lever did to Unilever. I think same thing is bound to happen.
The crown jewel is the India business.
It will become because we are the population. We have kind of innovated on the model. We were the pioneers. So all those factors, thankfully or with all humility, I say that has been there with us. So I think there is no reason. From there. So we will be 10,000 Domino's in India. When is the question? It is not the if.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. अगर KFC बन गया वहाँ पे 10,000 तो हम भी होंगे ही ना. मतलब it's a matter of time.
Wow, that's incredible. That is incredible.
Operationally running that business is like, I think.
I can't imagine.
Just
Also, public market, the IPO business, like you have to project, like this, just and so much.
What they didn't, talk about is like the attrition in their business, the manpower attrition. He was telling me 70-80% per annum. तो सोचो एक साल में पूरी workforce change हो जाती है. तो पूरा culture, पूरा आपने जो product service बनाई है. Imagine the training machinery that like they must be running here. मतलब it's very, very difficult.
We're a logistics company, we're a training company, we are an engineering company, we're a manufacturing company, and happen to make pizzas. That's all I think.
But really good ones, I must say. I remember Senapati Bapat Road was a Domino's first Domino's. Remember in Pune? So वहाँ पे I remember 97, 98. It was on the way from school, from Vicky Patil to home. It was there. So multiple times we would just tell mom and dad कि यहाँ पे रुक के जाते हैं, and we wanted to stay there. They used to have like plastic tables and chairs outside. They do not make us dine in.
Always functional.
Just fantastic. A lot of our school trips would be in Domino's की kitchen में जाके देखो बच्चे 20 बच्चे हर बच्चा अपना पिज्जा बना रहा है.
We have junior pizza chef. A lot of schools come in.
Yeah.
Right? It's an experience for them.
Amazing though.
Arjun, one of the things you were talking about was the commodity becoming product.
Yeah.
And we are seeing a little bit of that also happening. So if you see, looked at how salt got, became packaged salt. And Tata salt suddenly became this iodized salt, and now everybody wanted to just buy Tata salt. And in that whole move of several years of just having Tata salt, somebody thinks about this brainwave of saying, let's do low sodium salt. Because sodium is not a good thing. And now you've got like a brand which does low sodium salt. It's pink in color. So it got the Himalayan pink,
Himalayan sea salt,
sea salt, the stuff. So, and it became like a huge brand all of a sudden. So I think having sharp communication, and ensuring that consumers just get it, fast. That I don't have to go and get this khada namak from outside to get low sodium salt. You can get it packaged pure. It even has a name that goes with it. So you get it pure. It's convenient. Affordable, of course, and it's used in every home. So I think people just sit down and think. You can't think across the spectrum. You have to think within your own ambit. But I think you think hard. I think we are going to see many such slivers open up as very large opportunities.
And that's actually a very good point. So trust is something to really solve for in the country. I mean, look at commodities, Ashirwad Atta, Tata Namak, like. Namak and atta is like the basic level commodity, but the lack of trust is just. I think Tata Namak. The whole point is that I will not be cheated. I will not put something into my mouth.
Even milk, we were giving the example of Country Delight, right? All based on ki trust nahi aaya.
And I think in India, brand is more than just. It's like in the US, it might be that brand stands for multiple other things. I think in India, it is about trust. It is
consistency
just that I can trust. I will not get cheated.
I think that's the genesis of brands. Like, why were brands born? Brands are an invention.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's a man-made invention. You cut back to 200 years ago, when we were still largely a barter economy. एक butcher था, एक shoemaker था, एक ये था कि मैं तेरा जूता ठीक कर दूंगा, तू मेरे को खाना दे दे, और that, right? अब तेरे से bread आती थी, let's say, या रोटी आती थी, जो भी. Let's say in the US context bread आती थी. मेरे को जॉन की ब्रेड बड़ी अच्छी लगती थी, वो मेरे साथ में ही रहता था. Then food moved away from where people lived, right? Now food, who knows where your food is being made, right? Like it's being made in some other place and it comes to you in a supermarket shelf where you go and buy it from. अब मेरे को जॉन वाली ब्रेड चाहिए थी, तो मैंने जॉन को बोला भाई तू ठप्पा लगा दे, ये जॉन वाली ब्रेड है,
ढूंढ लूंगा.
ताकि मैं ढूंढ लूँ, क्योंकि मुझे पता है तेरी ब्रेड अच्छी होती है, right? So brands are by definition a byword for trust. They were born as a visual representation of trust. And like हमारा तो reason to exist ही है कि पिछले 50 साल से this inherent trust that people place in brands took it for granted and started थोड़ा half truth कि थोड़ा मैं no added sugar बोल देता हूँ ना आपको, आप तो trust करते हो मेरे पे, तो आप थोड़ी मोड़ के देखोगे कि पीछे क्या है, या मैं थोड़ा बोल देता हूँ कि ये लो फैट है, अब लो फैट करने के लिए मैंने उसमें क्या डाला वो छोड़ो ना आपको, राइट. Over 50 years this compounded and this broke the trust, right? Because I'm sure all of us have had that one incident at least where you felt cheated by your packaged food, तो for sure कि मैं सोचता था ये अच्छा है और ये निकला, right? So many, पिछले 6 महीने में तो इतने cases have gone viral. मसाला भी ख़राब है हमारा हेल्थ ड्रिंक भी हेल्थ नहीं है, गवर्नमेंट ने अभी परसों का रूलिंग है, ट्रॉपिकाना 100% जूस, they are not any longer allowed to write 100% juice because it's not, right? Why did it take it 20 years to do that is a different matter, right? So you're absolutely right. Trust
the one that blew my mind was this Kisan fresh tomato, no? Fresh tomato is a brand name.
Yes.
It's not actually fresh tomatoes. It blew my mind. Apparently
I'll tell you my favorite. It's also a Kisan, and apologies to my alma mater for this.
Mine too.
And yours.
I used to
3 neighbor guys in the room.
There is a Kisan hazelnut chocolate spread. It doesn't have hazelnut. It only has hazelnut flavor.
But they're allowed to say hazelnut chocolate?
Yeah. It has 0 hazelnut. It's called hazelnut choco spread.
जब डिटर्जेंट में नींबू डाल देते हो तो
लेकिन see that's the thing, खाने में जब ट्रस्ट टूटता है ना तो बहुत चुभता है.
इट्स वेरी इम्पोर्टेंट.
डिटर्जेंट में टूट जाए कोई बात नहीं यार, मैं तो डिटर्जेंट में कब से बेवकूफ बना रही कि वो जो ब्लू कलर का जो होता है वो एक्टिव इंग्रेडिएंट है, कुछ नहीं, इनर्ट पिल होती है वो सिर्फ आपको दिखाने के लिए, सो दैट यू कैन विजुअलाइज कि अच्छा ये डर्ट में जाके घुस रहा है और ऐसे मिट्टी निकल रही है उसके अंदर से, वो तो इनर्ट होता है, राइट. बट डिटर्जेंट में तो मेरा ट्रस्ट तोड़ दो, काम कर रहा है ना चलेगा, मतलब डजंट मैटर. बट खाने में लाइक इमेजिन इफ यू फिगर दिस आउट, मेरे हेजलनट स्प्रेड में हेजलनट ही नहीं था. दैट there's no coming back from that broken trust, right?
Agree. I think this has been a fascinating conversation. I think any final thoughts for food entrepreneurs of the future, like, you know, maybe a pitfall that is not very obvious to most people. I think we have covered a lot of what they should do and the kind of playbooks they should kind of look at. But any final thoughts कि यार ये थोड़ा सोच के करना है या फिर ये वाली चीज़ें ये मत करना, ऐसे any pitfalls from the 4 of your experience before we close the conversation today?
No, I think this got summarized by you very well about, you know, the fastest way to growing business is to go slow. You know, and taking step at a time and being sure-footed, I think is very important. So Arjun, that I would say is, you know, somewhere in our ranking, it's got to be there, very high up there. And then there's the thing about identifying a latent need. That is very important. The thing is, if the need is there, you know, then like an IDs may have done it, or a Chaayos has done it, or a paper boat has done it, or Tata Salt did it. Those are, I would say, for me, the biggest thing. Somewhere there was this latent need to, you know, behave like like how international people do. So therefore, burgers and, you know, pizzas came in. That was a deep desire, saying, you know, we're not any less than them. So therefore, you know, bring in, you know, what is internationally consumed. So I think that is there. Health is today a very latent desire, because you know, people want to do that. So therefore, you know, don't ignore that trend. So I think you bring these in. I think there are makings of a good business.
I think like the bet you take initially will possibly be very, like, it will seem borderline stupid to a lot of people, and it's important to just stick with conviction at that point of time. And I think that's true for most startups. I think most consumer startups, because if you're not really doing something that is
out there,
then you're just incrementally improving something else which already exists. So I think, yeah, being able to live with that, with some truth that only you know, which possibly other people will discover maybe 5 years later. That's a big part of the initial journey.
But also, I think it's about like figuring out that it was too out there. Like I see a lot of people kind of just because you're told ki don't give up or don't, they stick to like really poor ideas for like too long. That's because of problematic thing. But you're right. I think especially in food, I think the latent need point is something which I really enjoy. I think there is so much there that can be done. Sameer, Shashank, you guys?
I think क्या ना करना
चाहिए?
I would say यार कि I think it's relatively easy to make a small, nicely profitable lifestyle food business, but confuse मत होना कि तुम क्या बना रहे हो. तुम 50 लाख 1 करोड़ टर्नओवर का जिसमें तुम 10-20 लाख रुपए घर ले जाओगे बिजनेस बना रहे हो या तुम स्केल करना चाहते हो. वो दो completely different चीज़ें हैं. I see so many very well-meaning people who run a home kitchen, who are making, you know, something very tasty, very good, which all of their family and friends are loving, and that pushes them into thinking, चलो अब हम भी scale कर देंगे. ये दोनों बहुत अलग businesses हैं. And knowing that difference and being clear in your head what you are building, I think is a key pitfall to avoid. Otherwise, it leads to a lot of heartbreak because you're like, इतना अच्छा product है मेरा, everyone loves it, everyone says कि आप वो जो बनाते हो कितना अच्छा है, but and then imagine तुम उसमें इन्वेस्ट कर देते हो, उसमें बहुत कुछ कर देते हो, अपनी लाइफ की सेविंग डाल देते हो और फिर वो कहीं जाता नहीं है. I think that's the biggest pitfall to.
It's a very valid point. Building a lifestyle food business which is cute and profitable and self-sustaining because you're able to control quality versus scaling. Like
we heard, right? Like we are building a technology plus a logistics plus a people plus a this plus a that. So when you come to scaling, product is very important, but there is so much else to build around it.
Even product scaling is not that. Is not that.
जो आप घर पे बनाते हो, उसको scale करना is so difficult, right? So yeah.
I've had friends who have very cool achar businesses which are very domestic and maybe like in a city. The moment they try to scale it, oil, sugar, how the kind of equipment just becomes very different.
बहुत रहता है मतलब अब and you see it like the small scale place where you see it is कि शादियों का खाना क्यों नहीं अच्छा होता. मतलब जब कढ़ाई बड़ी हो जाती है तो ही रेसिपी घुस जाती है यार. मतलब तो कैसे very difficult.
My learning actually came from, I went to this Virji Chap Wale in Geeta Colony. If you go, so there's a line, वो शाम को 3-4 घंटे खुलते हैं और there's a line outside. ऐसा क्या है, सोया चाप की है, लोग लाइन लगी हुई है, लोग खा रहे हैं. एंड देन आई रियलाइज वो 40-50 रुपए का प्रोडक्ट है. देन आई डिड सम रिसर्च एंड सेड यार इंडिया में व्हाट इज द India is a $50 billion food services which is out of home food consumption market. $50 billion.
Okay.
70% of is unorganized. That 70% median price point is 60 rupees, 70 rupees. अगर आपको बड़ा धंधा बनाना है तो 60 रुपये 60-70 रुपये पे बनाना है. हमारी क्या कोशिश रहती है, चलो और बेचो, अपसेल करो, क्रॉस सेल करो, पर्सनलाइजेशन करो, 400 का 450 करो, 450 करो. 400-500 रुपये की जो QSR की जो इंडस्ट्री है, इट्स द टॉप एंड ऑफ द मार्केट. नीचे की मार्केट बहुत अलग है. अगर किसी ने वो क्रैक कर लिया, एंड दैट्स व्हाई आई कीप ऑन टेलिंग मी 50 रुपये का पिज़्ज़ा बेचो, दो रोल बेचो यार 50 रुपये में. ये 500 रुपये पे 2 रोल तो कोई भी बना सकता है. बट द मोमेंट यू क्रिएट दैट, देन द बेली ऑफ द मार्केट ओपन्स अप. So to me, that is my pursuit as when I look at it, like for next 2-3 years, I am pushing a massive value consciousness.
While maintaining aspiration of.
While of course aspiration, वो गीता कॉलोनी में जो वीरजी चाप वाले आ रहे हैं, 2 व्हीलर में अपनी वाइफ को लेके आ रहा है, वो भी एस्पिरेशन से ही आ रहा है. तो घर पे वो सोया चाप नहीं बना सकता. राइट. तो उसको वहीं जाके यार बड़ी अच्छी मिलती है, आज सैलरी मिली है, चलो हम जाएंगे और एक कोल्ड ड्रिंक लेंगे साथ. तो उसकी भी एस्पिरेशन है. But this is where India is. We have to solve for India, and I think that is what keeps me most excited.
By the way, to add to that data point, most probably, I don't have exact number, but 80 to 90% of packaged food sold in this country is sold under a price point of rupees 10.
By volume.
By volume.
I'll not be surprised.
I can
15 होगा, इतना ही होगा.
मतलब 90 at 20 तो पक्का होगा. मतलब 20 रुपए से नीचे 90% plus of the volume of the market.
वो personal care भी हो सकता है, I think.
Interesting.
I just one thought, as we look towards the future, as in not someone who started off 30 years ago, but there's someone looking the next 30 years. Now, that one trend that has to go away, and I think will go away, is, the Indian food industry has been, or maybe worldwide, it's been a huge provider for the pharma industry.
Yes.
Huge provider for the pharma industry. लोग बीमार पड़ जाते हैं, fat high हो जाता है, cholesterol बढ़ जाता है, कुछ हो जाता है. So pharma does very well because of how the food industry is. I think that is going to change. If you want to really build a big sustainable business, you have to look out 30 years in the future to say, we cannot be providers into the pharma industry anymore. You have to give good food, healthy food. You cannot compromise on the craveability or the affordability. So it is a tough ask, but I think if people get that aspect right, you're building for the future.
The other opportunity could be, how do you build top of funnel for the pharma industry once the food industry? वो दूसरा opportunity है. तो उसके लिए healthcare podcast. But you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Can I just tie some of this stuff together?
Please.
One thing very, the themes of some of the things that we've been talking about, also in terms of longevity. So if I were to give advice to someone starting a food business today after listening to all of you, one of the things that I would start by telling them is that you have to build a multi-decade business. And I think all of you are in multi-decade businesses or are set out to build out these multi-decade businesses. So therefore, I think in the food business, like with many other businesses, it's super tempting to get into what is the flavor of the season or what is the latest, or people are watching their weight and people are doing this and that. And I think if you're building a multi-decade business, like many of us are, whether it's food or not food, the question to always ask yourself is not what is changing, but what is not going to change. What is going to be true 30 years from now, as you said, and not what is going to be true in the next quarter or what is going to change. And what is probably going to be true 30 years from now is people will want to hear the truth about their brands and will want to be healthier 30 years from now. And what is true 30 years from now is people will still want to indulge in food and want to probably eat a pizza or whatever format it turns into, pizza, burger or pepi paneer or whatever it is, but people will still want to indulge. What will be true 30 years from now is people will still have chai. Right? Or have chai with snacks in some format, whether they take it fast, they eat it here, there, wherever. What is true is that as you take brands and export them, they will not want to eat it your way, but they will want to eat it my way. And there'll be personalization. So if you know all these things are true, the one thing that you should not probably do is you should not try and think very short term and try to get very early wins, because you have to build this brand over a long period of time. And that's how you need to think. And to tie up what we were talking in the morning also, is that the competition is very stiff in the short term. In short term businesses, 3 months, 1 month, 6 months, 12 months. But as you go out in a horizon of 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, there's literally no competition in your business, because no one is thinking on those time scales. You have to think on those time scales, but you have to see, to get there, what do I need to do today? What do I need to change today? What is the action I need to take now? So there is a here and now aspect to it, but if it's not rooted in the destination, then you will go wrong. And that's probably what not to do when building a food business or any business for that matter in India or anywhere in the world.
I completely agree. I think food is a very intuitive, because we are all consumers in a way. So a lot of people who want to become entrepreneurs, first and then figure out कि मेरे को क्या idea करना है. I think food, like you said, like if someone wants to start a cafe, everyone in their 20s wants to start a bar, right, at some point or the other. But I think a lot of entrepreneurs who want to be entrepreneurs will possibly land in this space in some shape or form. And I think I'm hoping that for the ones who do, this conversation is able to kind of guide them in the direction. And I have all of you to thank for it. Thank you so much for being so generous with your time, your experiences, your anecdotes, your generosity in terms of just authentic, the whole truth, I think came out from all experiences. Because food is it's the one thing that I think unifies 8 billion people. They all look forward, whether it's a tribe in Africa who wants to kind of get their game, or someone going to a mother and daughter going to a pizza, or someone getting a whole truth bar for nutrition, or that girl who kind of orders an upma and chai every morning. It is so rooted in the impact of happiness for all of us. So thanks to all of you, and I'm hoping that, you know, this industry gives less to the pharma industry over the next 30, 40 years. But thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.